Let's get peppy. Welcome to PEP 252. That's Planet Extra Podcast. I'm Chaz Dalloway, host of Planet America on ABC Australia, and this is an official podcast of the ABC. So say hi to the Ombudsman for me. On PEP, we cover all the stuff that's too nerdy for TV. If you're listening, you can find us on YouTube at the PEP with Chaz and Dr. Dave channel, and you can find highlights there as well. And we're on Facebook at the Chaz from Planet America channel. You also find timestamps and show notes and our blurbs, and if you leave a comment under our current episode video, we're likely to see it. You can also tweet us or blue sky us at PEPCHASDRDAVE. That's at PepChazDrDave. If you want to chat to some fellow peppers, you can join our Discord server. I do recommend it. It's pretty good. It's on the screen now or in the blurb of the podcast. But if you want to contact me or Lachy the Lachy privately, why not email us? The address is producer@pepthepodcast.com. The address again is producer@pepthepodcast.com. And I am replying to them as well. You will have noticed those who emailed me in the last 3 weeks have gotten a reply. All of you people emailing me, your reply is on its way. And do not forget to subscribe for all that peppy goodness. It all helps. We are recording this at 2:15 p.m. on Thursday afternoon, so it's going to be 24 hours old by the time you guys see it. Or that is, what's that? That is 11:15 p.m. on Wednesday night, East Coast time. So that's going to be very old for them. But for now, let's turn to the man who simply will not raise the stakes on inconsequential views. I speak, of course, of Dr. Pepper himself, Dr. David Smith.
You seem a bit more relaxed than usual today, Chaz.
It's because I'm almost totally prepared.
Wow. I was going to say, don't tell me you've been sleeping.
No, I wouldn't go that far.
I was going to say, because in an era when politics is defined by everyone being disappointed in everything all the time, I don't think we could handle one more betrayal.
No, I'm definitely not sleeping. But I am almost caught up in my reading. I'm up to, in reading-wise, I'm up to like 3 a.m. this morning. Okay. So that's not too bad.
That is pretty good.
Doing okay.
Okay.
What are you grateful for, Dave? Sorry, disclaimer. Very important disclaimer, Dave.
I'm David Smith. I'm an associate professor at the United States Studies Centre at the University of Sydney. But I do not speak for either of those institutions, especially when I'm talking about speculative technology. I do not want anything I say about any speculative technology being attributed to either of the institutions that I work for.
Are you about to teleport, Dave? Is that what this is about? Have you invented the hoverboard, Dave? What is going on? I can't wait to find out. What are you grateful for, Dave?
Teleportation. If you Google teleportation today and you go to Google News,
I nailed it.
You'll find two different stories. Okay, yes. So one is from National Geographic.
Yes.
It says teleportation is no longer just science fiction.
No,
at the quantum level.
Okay.
We may never beam ourselves off the planet, but quantum teleportation is poised to bring about a new era of computing and revolutionize our understanding of the subatomic world.
Okay, so we're talking about quarks here.
Yeah. We're talking about the teleportation of quantum information. So if your qubits are tingling, that's the reason why. But yes, as it says right at the start, we may never beam ourselves off the planet.
Right.
That's not what I'm grateful for. What I'm grateful for is the other story from CNN. A top FEMA official has history of violent rhetoric and said he once teleported to Waffle House.
That's right. This guy works for the administration, right?
Greg Phillips, appointed in December 10th to lead FEMA's Office of Response and Recovery, which, by the way, is possibly the most important post within FEMA. He has talked about teleporting. Now, this is not the most outlandish thing he said. He has got a long history of election denial, violent rhetoric, saying that he wants to punch Joe Biden in the face and wants Joe Biden to die. But the one that's getting all the attention is his claims about teleporting, which he says is no fun, by the way. So he described this on a podcast in January 2025. Same podcast where he said that he wanted Joe Biden to die. He said, I was with my boys one time and I was telling them I was going to go to Waffle House and get Waffle House. and I ended up at a Waffle House. This was in Georgia. And I end up at a Waffle House like 50 miles away from where I was, Phillips said in the January 2025 podcast. And they said, where are you? And I said, a Waffle House. A Waffle House where? And I said, Waffle House in Rome, Georgia. And they said, that's not possible. You left here just a minute ago. But it was possible. It was real.
So he teleported from one Waffle House to another Waffle House?
I don't think so. Admittedly, this isn't written very clearly. He was planning to go to a Waffle House, but as far as I can see, he ended up at a Waffle House he was not planning to be at.
Okay, because if it was within the Waffle House, then the Waffle House is clearly the teleportation vehicle.
That's right. Now, I got to say, he is far from the first American to have found himself in a Waffle House and not had a clear idea about how he got there. For those of you who are not aware, Waffle House is a 24-hour diner. It's like Denny's, but it tends to be found further south.
And I assume it's kind of the kebab store equivalent of this.
Yes, it is.
Where you go and lay on a Saturday night when you're drunk.
Yes, yeah. There was another part of the episode where he claimed that his vehicle lifted up while he was driving and carried him roughly 40 miles from Albany, Georgia, before setting him down in a ditch near a church.
So he teleported twice?
Yes.
Wow.
I think he's teleported multiple times. But that one just, yes, officer, that's how my car ended up in a ditch.
I'll tell you who's happy about this.
Teleportation.
Joe Biden is happy about this because this guy's about to punch Joe Biden in the face and then he ends up 40 miles away. Good news for Joe Biden in a Waffle House somewhere. While you were talking there, for those who are watching, you might be wondering why I was typing away at my computer in a rude fashion. It's because I was just looking if this guy had been confirmed by the Senate and what the vote was, and I don't think he was up for confirmation.
No, he wasn't up for confirmation. This CNN report says that despite his history of pretty violent and incendiary and weird comments, his colleagues at FEMA actually say he did a reasonable job with disaster response.
Probably in comparison to some other people involved with FEMA over the last 12 months.
Exactly, yes.
It's all relative, Dave.
Yes. Yeah. So when CNN asked about that, FEMA said that it was just silly to ask about these things. They mentioned something about him recovering from cancer. Now, a lot of people have recovered from cancer without telling stories about teleportation.
Yeah, maybe.
So I don't know how far that goes as a sort of hand-waving exercise.
And what kind of medicinal product was he taking when he was recovering from cancer?
And who suggested to him, it's completely all right to drive on this medicine.
Yes, it's good medicine. That is a wonderful grateful day.
Look, what I like about it is there are so many people who claim that they were abducted by aliens and were actually on the spaceship and were being probed under lights.
Yeah, no aliens here.
This guy's just had an unexplained trip to a Waffle House. A different Waffle House from the one he expected to go to.
And we should be clear, all of that was not the official opinion of the University of Sydney.
No, it wasn't.
Just making sure.
I don't know what the University of Sydney's official opinion on teleportation is, but I'm guessing it doesn't involve Waffle House.
Okay. My grateful, you'll be amazed to hear, is not a million miles away from that guy in some important ways. But I'm not going to do it now. I'm going to do it after the correspondence.
Okay.
Because the last correspondence introduces my grateful.
Okay.
So, I have a little bit of correspondence, but for those who aren't sweating on our YouTube and audio feed, you may or may not have noticed we've started loading up by request the correspondence extras that we will be recording most weeks, not every week, but most weeks, probably every week. I am replying to people and doing good correspondence, but some of them I just couldn't fit in because it was so long and I've spelt over here. Also, the ones that are actual corrections, I think should be in the main PEP. Whenever we correct something we said, it should be in the same episode that we say it in. I feel.
Okay.
So same format. Okay, so first of all, this one is not. This is just a spillover. They actually came a little bit later. Yep. I talked a lot about Israel in the correspondence extra because Joe Kent has made Israel cool again to talk about. And, Hale Hydrox wrote in the comments of the Planet America YouTube video, hey Chaz, how do you know I'd be there? Hey Chaz, there are a lot of comments saying it's pretty obvious that Israel was behind / involved in the invasion of Iraq and the war against ISIS in Syria. Because in Planet America, I referred to Joe Kent saying that Israel was responsible for both of them and saying that was very strange.
Yeah.
And the commenters going, oh, Chaz is such an idiot. He doesn't realize Israel's behind everything. Is there a credible theory to this? How Hydrox asked, which is a reasonable question.
Yeah.
They're not even listed as belligerents. Could you briefly discuss on PEP? Well, yeah, I can briefly discuss on PEP. Let's do it. I got no idea. Maybe Dave might be able to add something to this. I have no idea why anyone thinks Israel is behind ISIS. Do you know anything about that at all?
I've heard those conspiracy theories.
Yeah,
before.
but have you ever heard any logic behind it? Or is it just wild?
The theory that I have heard, which I think I probably saw this on Tim Anderson's Facebook page. Was the idea that basically it was about bringing down Syria. It was about bringing down Bashar al-Assad, and that it was the United States, it was Barack Obama, Israel, and ISIS all working in collusion.
Oh, they're all together
with each other.
Wow.
So I don't give that theory any credibility, but that's as far as I've heard.
If only the government was that effective. But they're not. Okay, I know a little bit about Iraq. You might know more about this than me. I don't know, but I'll tell you what I know and see what you have to add to this, Dave. Mm-hmm. This is my understanding of the conspiracy theory of Israel behind Iraq. There are two main reasons, things they point to. Number one, Netanyahu testified to Congress in September 2002, September 12 from memory, advising America to invade Iraq.
Yep.
Okay, so that there's no conspiracy there. He was explicitly saying you should invade Iraq. Number two, while everyone, including me, blames the neocons in George W. Bush's administration, there were some key neocons who were obsessed with Iraq.
Right.
In particular, Richard Pearl and Douglas Feith were pushing for the Iraq war the whole time.
Yep.
Before 9/11, they were pushing for the Iraq war. In fact, they wrote a report back in 1996 called the Clean Break Memo, and they wrote it for Netanyahu, of all people.
Yeah.
And that was about how we should invade Iraq. So that was 1996. Yes, they are both Jewish, and they are both very, very Zionist. That is true. And so the conspiracy theorists saw them as kind of insiders for Israel inside the administration. Yeah. And like influencing the administration, influencing Dick Cheney and so forth. That's the theory. Yeah. That Hale Hydrox. Now, my response to those people is this. Number one, neither of them were very senior, and they'd be very effective if they convinced the entire administration of something they didn't want to do. But Netanyahu was not the prime minister of Israel in 2002. Not. He was a private citizen.
Yes.
No one knew he was going to dominate the next 25 years at that point in time, sadly. Maybe he was into Iraq, but the Israeli Prime Minister, Ariel Sharon, was not into Iraq. Let me read you quotes from a Washington Post article written in February 2002, well before the war in Iraq. This is not hindsight, like the Israeli theory is. The Israeli theory came about in about 2006 or 7. This is before the war. And I'll put the link in the homework so you can look for yourself. As Prime Minister Ariel Sharon arrives today for a White House visit, Israeli officials are redoubling efforts to warn the Bush administration that Iran poses a greater threat than the Iraqi regime of Saddam Hussein. A series of Israeli leaders have carried that message to Washington recently in the hope of influencing a debate that is centered not on Iran, but on whether to pursue the overthrow of the Iraqi government. During meetings here yesterday, including with Vice President Cheney, Israeli Defense Minister Benjamin Ben-Elazar warned of the hazards posed by Iranian support for terrorist groups and development of advanced weapons. Today, everybody's busy with Iraq, Ben-Elazar said in an interview. Iraq is a problem, but you should understand, if you ask me today, Iran is more dangerous than Iraq. Okay, that's going to be in the homework if you want to have a look. You might say, well, that article didn't say anything about Sharon, just said about all his people. Obviously, Sharon's sending those people, but let's ignore that. Let's hear about Sharon directly. IPS News interviewed Lawrence Wilkerson from the Bush State Department in 2007. This is what he said. I'm quoting the article. Israeli officials warned the George W. Bush administration that an invasion of Iraq would be destabilizing to the region and urged the United States to instead target Iran as the primary enemy, according to former administration official Lawrence Wilkerson. Wilkerson, then a member of the State Department's policy planning staff and later chief of staff for Secretary of State Colin Powell, recalled in an interview with IPS that the Israelis reacted immediately to indications that the Bush administration was thinking of war against Iraq. After the Israeli government picked up the first signs of that intention, Wilkerson says, the Israelis were telling us Iraq is not the enemy, Iran is the enemy. Wilkerson describes the Israeli message to the Bush administration early 2002 as being, if you're going to destabilize the balance of power, do it against the main enemy. The warning against an invasion of Iraq was pervasive in Israeli communications with the administration, and Wilkerson recalls it was conveyed to the administration by a wide range of Israeli sources, including political figures, intelligence, and private citizens. So there you go. Do you have anything to add to that, Dave?
I remember at the time that it was relatively widespread knowledge that Israel was at best lukewarm about Iraq, that they saw it as a distraction from Iran. Now, I can also remember the conspiracy theories from that time about Israel being behind it, the idea that Saddam Hussein was the biggest threat to Israel. But as that reporting makes clear, that has never been how Israel has actually seen it. Israel has always seen Iran as the bigger threat.
Yep. And now a bunch of a bunch of corrections. Pseudonym. Sorry, usually try to stay in my own lane, but wasn't Mark Wayne Mullen's family business in plumbing rather than trucking? Yes, it was. We were wrong. That's your one.
Yes, yeah. Sorry about that. I mean, I'm sure that he drove trucks to get to his
he did.
plumbing business.
He looks like a guy who drives trucks.
But you're right, because I remember, and now that you mentioned it, I remember seeing someone insulting him over a plumbing job that he did for him in Oklahoma a long time ago.
Might have been Joe the plumber. This is my one. Neil says, Shia versus Sunni beliefs about hereditary succession. My understanding is the opposite of what you said is true. The split between Shia and Sunni Muslims originated immediately following the death of the Prophet Muhammad in 632 CE over the Sunnis disputing hereditary succession. So it's in fact ironic that the Iranian Shiite nation now don't want the son of the cleric to be the leader. He must be a shocker. I said it was the other way around. It was the Shiites who are against...
Yes, I believe you're right. Yes.
So thank you for that, Neil. Morpheus says, Boris Pistorius is Germany's defence minister, not foreign minister.
Okay.
Johann Waffle, who was recently in Australia and did some pretty cringy TikTok clips with Penny Wong about Tim Tams, is the defence minister.
Look, also a great name.
Yes. We're sharing them, Dave, 2 each here.
Yep.
Ali Larijani was not a member of the Interim Council or triumvirate. I said that.
Yep.
The three men are Masood, the Pez, Pezeshkian, Mohseni, Ajay, and Arafi. Larijani was the Secretary of the Supreme National Security Council. Thank you very much for those corrections. I also have a semi-correction about the question of whether the fact that ships have passed through the strait is evidence that the straits have not been mined.
Okay.
Which I said. Doug said, sea mines note, modern sea mines don't just bob about. They can rest on the seafloor, rising to meet ships when they're detected.
Ugh.
Some can even move. Some mines can be set to allow some craft to pass and to destroy others, allowing the programmers to give passes to some ships. This makes them much harder to detect and clear. I'd say the passage of some Iranian tankers is poor proof that the strait is not mined. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Kitchen Insider said Iran mined the Oman side so that ships would have to pass closer to Iran and be readily attacked. That's not what Iran says. I'm not saying you're wrong, Kitchen Insider, but I'm just saying Iran says they didn't mine it. According to Doug, what you're saying is possible, though. So, I don't know. Just passing on what I read. Board of Peace Correspondence. Now, this is not a correction, but this is really cool, so I had to put this in pen.
Okay.
This is but one of our early anonymous tip-offs from someone who actually is in the know.
Oh.
This is pretty cool stuff. This is, if we were a TV show with them testifying, they would be in the shadow in front of a Venetian blind. and they talk like this. Okay, a pepper knows someone, wait for it, Dave, on the Board of Peace.
What?
They know an actual member of the Board of Peace.
Wow.
And that what this person told them, so this is third-hand information.
Yep.
But still.
But you're hearing it here.
It's great
And when
information.
you tell people about it, it'll be fourth-hand information.
Yes. They used ChatGPT to write the report that became the Gaza Peace Plan.
Wow.
The appointee freely admits they have no specific knowledge or experience in Middle East politics or the Palestinian people or the construction industry or resettlement planning or anything that's relevant. Furthermore, the appointee says the board uses ChatGPT all the time for a lot of their information. So there you go. It's amazing stuff.
That is, I mean, yeah, it's not surprising, but yeah, that's just the worst.
Yeah. And final correspondence from Susan.
Yep.
I think there should be a to be fair sting, just because I love the stings and there's never enough of them, not because I'm mocking Chaz. I agree 100% with you, Susan, and I am mocking Chaz. So Dan, I'll speak to you and any other budding sting creators. If you send us a to be fair sting, I'm going to use it.
Okay.
Producer at pepthepodcast.com, and I'll see it this time because I'm checking the emails. I'm up to date. Final one, Dave, from Clousey. Please, can we get a mention for Afroman? I remember you discussing him like 100 peps ago. Yes, we did. Time for an update, and it is my grateful. Joseph Foreman, a.k.a. Afroman Dave, is best known for a truly terrible novelty hit from the year 2000 called Because I Got High, which we're only going to play a very short amount of because we'll get busted for copyright. Let's hear.
Because I got high, because I got high, because I got high.
That was the second most annoying novelty hit in the year 2000 behind Who Let the Dogs Out. Anyway, Afroman, look, to be fair, Sting. I was going to say Sting. He wasn't good. He would have gone down in history as a poor man's Eamon. Do you remember Eamon? You remember? A lot of our viewers are not going to know who the hell Eamon is.
I was not expecting to hear that name
Ever again in
today,
your
let
life.
alone with the words "poor man's Eamon" in front of it.
Eamon was a terrible hip hopper who went to number one off the back of being the first person to use naughty words in a song. Yeah, another stab.
Fuck all those kisses and getting me jacked. Fuck you, you hoe. I don't want you back.
The days of misogyny in the early 2000s. Anyway, in 2022, something happened and Afroman became a legend. What that something was Adams County Sheriff's Department in Ohio executing a search warrant on his house.
Adams County is Cincinnati, by the way.
Thank you very much. They suspected Afroman of drug possession. That's not a big stretch.
What did I finally get round to listening to Because I Got High?
But it was more, Dave. It was more. It wasn't just
It's
that.
like, gentlemen, this man's not pleading the fifth.
But they also suspect him of drug trafficking, which is a little more of a stretch because he likes to use it himself. And also kidnapping and storing them in his basement dungeon. Now, that's a lot more of a stretch.
Yeah.
Apparently an informant had dobbed him in, whether it was a troll or whether it was just someone just making crap up. I don't know. And those guys, they got right into it. They kicked down his gate, his door. They rifled through his clothes, his CDs. They were looking for false walls. They were doing the lot. They were there for over an hour.
For some reason, I remember the detail about them rifling through his CDs.
Well, that was in a song, which we played on
yes,
PEP.
yeah.
So that would help. We'll get to that. They had three problems, though. One, they found no drugs. Two, they found no kidnapping victims. And three, he doesn't have a basement. So those were three big problems. What he does have, though, is a video surveillance system. And it captured their searching.
Wow.
It captured all their faces. It captured a fat cop eyeing off Afroman's lemon pound cake in his kitchen. And most notably, it captured the cop stealing $5,000 out of his clothes. Also, it scared the hell out of his wife, who was there at the time, but Afroman was not. They never charged Afroman with anything, unsurprisingly, but Afroman was not done with them. What he did was, first of all, he demanded they return his cash, and they did. They returned all $4,600 of the $5,000. They say it was a counting error. Secondly, he made an entire album about the experience using the surveillance footage to make film clips. Like this classic I'm about to play, Will You Help Me Repair My Door? Now, hopefully YouTube is going to let me play a few bits of this song because it's awesome. I'm giving it 5 stars. That's what you do when you're crit and reviewing a song and therefore are legally allowed to play bits of it. Okay? It was an excellent song, which I recommend you all go out and buy. And I'm going to play a lengthy section now to demonstrate why I like it so much and why you should all like it. Is that enough crit and review, do you think, Dave?
Yeah, Peppers with expertise in copyright law, we might be needing your help at some point.
Let's play the song.
Will you help me repair my gate?
It doesn't really sound that different to Because I Go High, if we're being honest.
Help me repair my door. Did you find what you was looking for? Will you help me repair my gate and door?
Bum, 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 bum.
The warrant said narcotics and kidnapping. The warrant said narcotics and kidnapping.
That's some good rhyming.
I make my money rapping.
Rapping and kidnapping. There you go.
Because the warrant say narcotics. Well, I know narcotics, but why kidnapping?
Every film clip should be like
Are you
this.
stealing my money?
I can't believe he got that on video.
Why are you stealing my money? You represent the law, and it's funny. You're stealing my legal work hard every day. Pay taxes, money.
Sorry, skip past the CD part, Dave. I should put in for you.
I would say, apart from Afroman's very distinctive voice,
Yeah.
it sounds like some of Angelo Badalamenti's work for David Lynch.
Wow. That's extraordinary.
That's my critique and review.
Thank you very much, Dave. It all helps. The rest of that song is in the homework if you want to have a look. It goes for 5.5 minutes. He's got a lot to say.
It's really going to feel like homework by the end of it.
Yes. He also sold T-shirts with the cops' faces on them as well. I think I've got one of them here. This is an example of a lemon pound cake shirt right here. And he used the cops' images to promote his tours. Okay, so that's what he did. The lawsuit, they then sued him, the cops. 7 of the sheriff's deputies sued him for using their personas for commercial purposes.
Yep.
He kind of did that.
Yeah.
Without permission.
Definitely did that, yep.
Causing them to suffer embarrassment, ridicule, emotional distress, humiliation, and loss of reputation. Yeah, okay. Also, they sued him for invading their privacy. Now, the judge threw out most of those claims, but they did allow 3 counts to go to trial. False light, unreasonable publicity of private lives, and defamation. Now, you might go, hang on, what about First Amendment? Well, the judge held that some of the wild statements Afro made about them, and they were wild, if we're being honest, were accusations and statements of fact, not just opinions.
Right.
Which the First Amendment protects.
Yes.
Like, for instance, saying that they wanted to kill him. That's a statement of fact.
Yeah.
That they were thieves.
Yes.
And that one of them was a lesbian, which is a very random thing to say. But anyway, the trial was 2 weeks ago. They sued Afroman for $3.9 million. And Afroman said, it's freedom of speech, guys. Here's the quote. I got freedom of speech. After they run around my house with guns and kick down my door, I got the right to kick a can in my backyard, use my freedom of speech, and turn my bad times into a good time. Yes, I do. And I think I'm a sport for doing so because I don't go to their house, kick down their doors, and then try to play the victim and sue them. Fair points. They certainly were playing the victim. They literally cried in court about all the trauma he had caused for them with his songs. Afroman also said that a lot of his sledging was just hip-hop hyperbole, which no one would have taken seriously. The deputies denied this, and that led to a fairly amusing moment when one of the cops said that he was caused tremendous pain by Afroman rapping that he'd had sex with the cop's wife. And it led to this exchange.
So you're claiming that is the defamation statement is that he said he had sex with your wife?
Yes.
Okay. And that's painted you in a false light?
It's caused tremendous pain in my life.
I'll get to that. We have to go through false light first. So does it paint you in a false light?
Yes, that my wife is cheating on me with Mr. Foreman.
But we all know that's not true, correct?
I don't know.
Wait, you don't know if your wife's cheating on you or not?
You want to go there?
No, I just want to ask that question because you said we don't know. I just
Been
need
with
to
that
know yes or
woman
no.
since middle school.
I know.
I would hope she wouldn't. But you know what? Once somebody puts it out there for their fun and entertainment, it's out there.
The look in the cop's face when he said, you want to go there. Yeah, I think we know what kind of cop this guy is.
Yeah. I think if he wanted to avoid humiliation, loss of reputation, he probably shouldn't have gone to court.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
By the way, for those who can't see that video, Afroman is wearing a suit that consists of at least 20 American flags.
There's a lot of American flags.
To which I say, Pete Hegseth, take note, Mr. Oh, I wear at least 3 items of American flag clothing per day. Well, that is just more evidence that you are not fundamentally serious about the whole American flag thing.
As if we need more. The lawyer didn't like that, by the way, the Afroman suit. I got a quote from the lawyer. Mr. Foreman doesn't get to wrap himself in the American flag and say, you can't touch me. I can say what I want, no matter how untrue it is, no matter how much pain it causes people, because I've got freedom of speech. He can't do that. The jury said, nah, he can do that. They found Afroman not liable. And I'm grateful to that jury, Dave. As someone who was part of a case where a Sky News host extracted money from the AVC in a legal settlement because we showed a Photoshop of him having sex with a dog when we were making fun of ourselves, I take cry bully behaviour quite seriously.
Yes.
Go Afroman. I can't wait for the inevitable movie. That suit of his,
Yes.
he so obviously is trying to be the next Larry Flint and get a movie made
Yes.
of him and make heaps of money out of that movie.
Yeah.
So I will watch it.
You know, the only thing that makes me sad is this week I was explaining to my students the differences between defamation law in Australia and the United States. And it did not occur to me to tell them about Afroman. However, though, because my students were all born after Afroman was known in any way, I'm just trying to think of how much context it would require to explain this whole thing. Probably a little bit too much for a 2-hour class.
You might have to play the song. That'd be bad news for your class. Afroman, just one bit of advice as a big supporter. So I'm very grateful for you and for the jury. Maybe come up with a second song format. You put out like 23 albums and they're all the same song. Just maybe. I don't know. Anyway, that's my grateful. Should we get into content?
Yes, let's get into content.
Iran war. Let's start with Iran this time. We didn't last time. We'll start with Iran this time. Death toll update. Iran has 1,500 people killed, 18,551 injured. Lebanon has 1,072 killed, 2,966 injured. Iraq has 82 killed. Israel has 18 killed, 4,829 injured. Dave, you want to say something?
I need to correct my own correction from last week. Last week I noted that the previous week I had really understated the number of people displaced in Lebanon.
Yep.
Last week I somewhat overstated it. Okay.
What's the actual number?
The actual number is 1 million people displaced.
That's the number I've heard.
That is a
Yes.
lot.
Yes, it is a lot of people.
That is far too many.
Yeah. UAE, 8 people killed, 161 injured. Kuwait, 6 killed. Syria, 4 killed. Palestine, 4 killed. Bahrain, 3 killed. Oman, 3 killed. Saudi Arabia, 2 killed. US military, 13 killed still, 200 injured. Oil prices are about $100 a barrel at the moment, and gas prices are $3.99 a gallon. Polling-wise, CBS YouGov had the approval for the war at 44%, disapproval at 56% on March the 3rd. So that's the week 1 of the war.
Yep.
Last week it was 40% approval, 60% disapproval. So it's becoming less popular over time, which
Yes.
is a reversal of what was happening in the first couple of weeks.
Yes.
And-
So Reuters Ipsos had a poll today
Yes,
showing support for the war at 36%.
So that's going down as well.
That is also going down.
Yeah.
36% was also Trump's approval rating in the poll, which is one of the lowest approval ratings he's had in a major poll. According to the New York Times, Trump approval rating aggregate or average, it's now 40%, which is quite low given that it was very steadily at 43% for the first year of his presidency.
Yep. And when asked, has the Trump administration clearly explained the war's goals the CBS YouGov poll in the first week, it was 38% yes, 62% no. Now it's 32% yes, 68%
Yeah, that's
no.
a bad sign when that is going down.
Yeah.
When you've had more time to explain it and fewer people are saying that you've explained it.
Where we left it last week, Trump was very angry at NATO for not wanting to join his war and help unblock the strait at that point in time. He was saying he didn't need them, he didn't want them, but he was still angry at them and disappointed. Angry and disappointed. And they responded. Apparently, NATO head Mark Rutte and British PM Keir Starmer lent on Macron
Yep.
and helped organise a joint statement from 30 countries. I'll read them out for you because we're one of them. UK, France, Germany, Italy, Netherlands, Japan, Canada, South Korea, New Zealand, Denmark, Latvia, Slovenia, Estonia, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Czechia, Romania, Bahrain, Lithuania, Australia, UAE, Portugal, Trinidad and Tobago, Dominican Republic, Croatia, Bulgaria, Kosovo, Panama and North Macedonia. How would you be if you're North Macedonia and you were last in the list after the Dominican Republic and Trinidad and Tobago? Jesus. Anyway, they said... We express our readiness to contribute to appropriate efforts to ensure safe passage through the strait. We welcome the commitment of nations who are engaging in preparatory planning. Now, the key there, I think, is contribute to appropriate efforts.
Yes.
Which presumably is a euphemism for not in the middle of a war.
Yes. That is absolutely what that means.
Yes. But that's still something. Like, they're still saying they want to help out as soon as the airstrikes stop.
Yeah.
Trump disagrees that it's something because after that statement came out, he ranted a bit more. Without the USA, NATO is a paper tiger. They didn't want to join the fight to stop a nuclear-powered Iran. Now that fight's militarily won with very little danger for them. They complain about the high oil prices they're forced to pay, but they want to help open the Strait of Hormuz. A simple military maneuver that's the single reason for the high oil prices. So easy for them to do with so little risk. Cowards. And we will remember. Even though, at the same time as he's tweeting this shit out, Trump maintains America doesn't need the strait. Mm-hmm. He doesn't care at all. Let's have a look.
You know, we don't use the strait. We don't. The United States. We don't need it. Europe needs it. Korea, Japan, China, a lot of other people. So they'll have to get involved a little bit on that one.
Yeah. It's not nothing to do with us.
When this is really going to start to hurt Trump is when fuel gets so expensive that he can no longer do press conferences in front of a roaring helicopter.
It'll have to be. His helicopter will be a wind turbine soon if it gets too expensive. We should say it's absolutely not true to say that there's no danger to ships during the war.
I was going to say, he says it's a low-risk operation, almost no danger to them whatsoever.
Well, why doesn't he do it?
Yeah, why doesn't he do it? Like, as if it was that low risk, he wouldn't do it in order to take credit for it.
Of course. I mean, just this week, James Mattis, his ex-defense secretary,
Yes.
noted that Iran can literally fire anti-ship cruise missiles from the back of a truck and they go 100 kilometres.
Yes.
Which is well past what they need for the Strait of Hormuz. America cannot stop Iran doing that. They literally cannot stop them carrying missiles around in trucks. And they also have all kinds of drones. Like, for instance, there have been 3 different ships that have been blown up so far or severely damaged by exploding drone vessels disguised as fishing boats. They got those kinds of drones. They've got underwater drones, which are a nightmare to detect and can stay underwater for 4 days. They've got those loitering drones that Israel's been using to kill the Basij that can just hang around for a while, hovering until they spot a target and then attack. They've got all kinds of drones. And to say there's no risk is just ridiculous. Also, this is clearly not an easy problem to solve because America has been making some desperate moves in the last few weeks to keep oil prices low.
Yes.
Or relatively low. Like, for instance, they just lifted the oil sanctions off Iran.
Yes.
There have been sanctions on Iranian oil since 1979, and the administration was so keen to get more supply out there to keep prices down that they lifted the sanctions off Iranian oil while they are at war. Now, admittedly, that's just the Iranian oil that's currently at sea. That's 140 million barrels worth. This is Scott Bessent's logic for it all.
In the coming days, we may unsanction the Iranian oil that's on the water. It's about 140 million barrels. So depending on how you count it, that's 10 days to 2 weeks of supply that the Iranians had been pushing out. That would have all gone to China. In essence, we will be using the Iranian barrels against the Iranians to keep the price down.
So you reckon? Do you like that logic? Do you think it's a good policy?
Not surprisingly, that didn't go down well in the United States of America with Republicans or Democrats.
Yes.
Yeah. We are going to unsanction their oil.
Yep.
In other words, to let them make money out of their oil.
Yes.
Which will be using their oil as a weapon against them. Yeah, look, no, I'm not even going to try to dignify this by attempting to make sense of it.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
But needless to say, revenue going directly to Iran is more significant to Iran than whatever tiny, minuscule effect there might be on prices from slightly increasing the supply. By the way, that move did not do anything to prices at all.
Well, I was going to say, of course it's not going to affect prices because
Yes.
the supply's the same.
Yes.
Iran was going to sell that oil.
Yes.
They were just going to sell the oil for not very much
Yep.
on the black market.
Yes.
And now Bessent said, no, you can sell it officially at market price,
Yes.
which is much more. So you can make heaps more money and it won't change overall supply whatsoever. It doesn't matter how much official oil is out there. What matters is how much total oil is out there, official and unofficial. So the pool hasn't changed by them removing sanctions for oil that's already been shipped.
I'm just wondering who he thought was going to fall for that.
I don't know.
Oh, sorry, we know the answer to that. It's Trump. The good old audience of one.
Yeah, yeah. And also,
Genius moves. They also lifted sanctions on Russian oil.
they did. Oh, I was going to talk about
We'll
Russia
see.
later on, but
Yeah.
yes, they did. They're just desperate. And if you do the maths, $100 a barrel.
Yep.
You know, 100 and what is that? How many barrels? 140 million barrels. That's $14 billion.
Yeah.
How many times have you heard Trump belly aching about Obama making $1.7 billion
Yes.
available to Iran
Yes.
as part of the deal, the nuclear deal?
Yep.
And now they've made 8 times as much money available to Iran
Yes.
in the middle of a war when they're going to use that money to fight America with. Like, it's interesting logic.
Yeah.
To be fair, Sting, Bessent says it isn't that simple. He says Iran will have difficulty accessing any revenue generated, and the United States will continue to maintain maximum pressure on Iran and its ability to access the international financial system. So they're going to make it. They'll be making the money, but Bessent says they're not going to touch that money because we're strangling the financial system, so they can't. Do you have any thoughts on that? I mean, there is a logic there.
Yes, there is.
If that's true.
Yeah. Well,
I've got my doubts they can completely strangle the money. But
Iran has been locked out of the global financial system for a long time, and it still manages to get money from somewhere, including through what's that incredibly corrupt crypto exchange.
Binance.
Yeah, Binance.
the one that Trump is effectively sponsoring.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they got a couple of billion out of that recently.
Yes,
it was
they
discovered.
did. Yes.
Yeah. So they've still got ways of accessing that money. But it's not a new thing that the US is locking Iran out of the financial system. That's been going on for years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, clearly, Trump doesn't think this is easy to solve because he's been making some, there's no other way to put it, ominous moves in terms of deploying loads of troops.
Yes.
Like there are so many troops coming over at the moment. You've got thousands upon thousands of Marines and soldiers, the Boxer Amphibious Ready Group, the 11th Marine Expeditionary Unit, the 82nd Airborne's Immediate Response Force. It goes on, as well as dozens of transport aircraft used to ferry troops and cargo around. We don't know what they intend to do with these troops. We don't know. Maybe they're just there as a guarantee. Maybe they're just there to intimidate.
Yep.
Maybe, they don't seem to have the troop numbers to take the entirety of the Iranian coast, which is one thing which was speculated. Do they want to take Karg Island? Maybe. Do they want to take the enriched uranium that's buried under the mountain? Maybe. Both of those would be extremely risky operations.
Yes.
If they took them. I don't need to tell you why taking buried uranium that weighs hundreds of kilos could be risky.
The IAEA has not been very happy about that.
Yeah. But I'll tell you about Carg Island because that seems really easy to people. Oh, just take this simple little island. Then you can just bomb a lot. No problems. All right. Why is that risky? Well, taking it's easy. It's a tiny little island. You're right. It's a small island, 20 kilometers off the coast of Iran. 90% of Iran's export oil goes through. Did have lots of military protection. That's all gone. They bombed it all.
Although there was reporting today about them rebuilding the military there.
Well, this is the thing.
Yes.
This is the thing. What they're very openly saying, albeit off the record,
yes,
is that there will be no invasion tomorrow or next week. They want to take a month to really wear Iran down before if they invade Carg Island, before they invade Carg Island. Now, they might be lying about a month, maybe 3 weeks or whatever to surprise them. But the people in Carg Island know. There's 20,000 people there.
Yes.
They know.
Yes.
They have a month to booby trap it.
Yep, that's what they've been doing.
Yeah, they have a month to make it as unpleasant as possible because they know America will be able to take it very easily when they come. But the problem is they need to hold it.
Yes.
Because the whole point is to throttle Iran's exporting of oil.
Yes.
So they need to stay there once they're there.
So for those of you who've heard the term Carg Island before but are not quite sure why it's so significant. First thing is it's nowhere near the Strait of Hormuz, okay? So it's at the other end of the Persian Gulf.
It's right at the top there. Yeah.
Yeah. This is the port that 90% of Iran's crude oil exports goes through, right? So it's obviously very significant to Iran's economy.
Yes.
One of the unknown variables is what workarounds has Iran developed in the event that Carg Island becomes inaccessible to them. So we don't really know. This is not the first time that Carg Island has been threatened. As we mentioned in PEP either last week or the week before, Iraq went after it in the 1980s.
Trump himself threatened it in the 1980s.
Yeah. And when Iraq did it, it was to try to provoke Iran to close the Straits of Hormuz so that the West would get involved on Iraq's side. So Iran has been thinking about this for a long time. And it's not known what workarounds they might have developed. There is reporting that some workarounds are already in effect, but we don't know if this is like, say, the Saudi pipeline that gets around the Straits of Hormuz but has a far lower capacity and is itself vulnerable. So we really don't know what the workarounds are. But just a key point to mention is if the US goes in and storms Carg Island and takes it over and can hold on to it, that will do nothing about the Straits of Hormuz.
No. What they're hoping is that they essentially, since oil is such a large part of Iran's revenue.
Yes.
Although according to Scott Percent, they get no money from it. So figure that out.
Yeah.
Their own logic is self-contradictory.
Yes.
But anyway, because Iran's making so much money from oil that they can't get access to, if you cut off their oil money, they won't be able to pay the IRGC and there'll be a revolution. That's their logic.
Yes.
Right? Or alternatively, the regime will suffer so much from being starved, like Cuba's been starved at the moment, that they'll be begging for a deal on Trump's terms and they'll have a new Venezuela. That's the logic, right? Now, I've got no idea about the workarounds they might have to be able to sell oil without Carg Island. There are other islands and there are other locations.
Yeah, bearing in mind that Iran has access to the entire Persian Gulf.
Yes.
The Iranian coastline literally extends over one side of the entire Persian Gulf.
Yeah, it goes past the Strait of Hormuz.
Goes past the Strait of Hormuz, yes.
Yeah, leaving that aside, I don't know with what kind of booby traps, etc., they're going to have waiting for the Americans, but there are some really obvious things that they can do, which I'll tell you right now.
Yep.
If given the Americans will have to stay there, they can't go.
No.
It's going to be very hard to resupply those people because the ships are not going to be going through the Strait of Hormuz because they'll get attacked if they go through the Strait of Hormuz. So the ships are going to stay outside the Gulf.
Yes.
Right, which is hundreds of kilometers away. So they're going to have to get supplies hundreds of kilometers across. And Iran's going to be firing at those, whether it's ships or planes. They'll have drones. They'll have cruise missiles.
Yep.
They're going to be a nightmare to resupply. So that's the first thing. Supplies tend to last about 15 days. After 15 days, those guys are on their own. That's the first problem.
They can sell some oil to some locals.
Well, here's the second problem. If Iran can't sell oil,
Yep.
what do you reckon they're going to do to that oil? I'll tell you what they're going to do. They're going to blow it up. That's what they're going to do. And then those American troops are going to be 24 hours a day bathing in oil fire and oil smoke, toxic oil smoke. And that's not going to be very pleasant. And they're not going to be able to go away from it because it's a tiny little island. So they're going to be stuck there with the toxic fumes. That won't be nice. What also won't be nice is that they'll be a sitting duck for drone attacks and cruise missile attacks because they're right next to the coast of Iran. So it's just going to be constant short-range missiles. I mean, they might try and hide themselves amongst the Iranian people. If I was Iran, I'd get those people off that island as soon as possible after they've laid all their booby traps. But we'll see what they do. But yeah, the American soldiers it's going to be a absolute shooting gallery. Like they are going to be sitting ducks.
Yes. I would like to think that someone's explained these problems to Trump, but explaining things to Trump in a way that convinces him doesn't seem to be the specialty of this administration.
I'm sure someone's explained it to him, and that someone would probably be Lindsey Graham, who's probably explained it differently to how you and I would explain this, because this is how worried Lindsey Graham is about these prospects.
The result could be a grinding war of attrition. They talk about how far away they would be from resupply.
I'm sort of tired of all this armchair quarterbacking. This has been an amazing military operation. God bless the fallen.
But it's a difference when we talk about troops on the ground.
I trust the Marines, not that guy. I trust DOD. We got 2 Marine expeditionary units sailing to this island. We did Iwo Jima. We can do this.
If we can do Iwo Jima, we can do this. Just a little reminder, taking Iwo Jima required 110,000 men. It was a notoriously bloody battle. 25,000 of those men died. That's the way Lindsey Graham thinks.
Can't believe he said that. Iwo Jima, famously remembered as a fun picnic for everyone. That's why they raised that flag, because they were having such a good time.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Anyway, I don't know if they're going to do that. I don't know if they're going to take back the rich uranium. They're up to something. They're deploying a lot of troops.
Even if they seize Karg Island with no problems and somehow they can hold on to it and develop a supply line and everything, if Lindsey Graham's right about all of that, Iran has already explained what is going to happen if they do that, which is they are going to target energy infrastructure all over the Middle East. In fact, Iran's already come up with a well-worked-out excuse for this. They've said that if the United States attacks Karg Island, they're going to say that the attack came from the United Arab Emirates, that the UAE was used as a base, and they're going to attack the UAE. They will take any excuse they can to attack whatever infrastructure they feel like, whatever infrastructure they can reach throughout the Middle East. Now, I know, that as the US military, Israeli military is so fond of pointing out how much they have degraded Iran's missile capabilities and how many of their missiles miss or get intercepted or get blown up or whatever. But we're still seeing this just constant pitter-patter of missile attacks that do somehow get through the defenses and cause enough damage when they get through to cause real problems. And this is all that Iran has to keep doing. So one of the consequences of taking Karg Island is going to be, in all likelihood, the further devastation of energy infrastructure around the Middle East. And that is going to be one of the things that continues the economic shock, in fact, accelerates the economic shock, possibly to levels that we haven't seen yet.
It's interesting because, I was going to talk about this later, but I'll talk about it now because it's relevant to what you're saying.
Yeah.
There's an interesting dynamic happening at the moment, Dave, which is that the other Gulf states are really starting to drop the veil of neutrality towards Iran. And this is kind of new.
Yeah.
This is a quote from Anwar Gargesh, a UAE politician, saying, as we confront the brutal Iranian aggression and discover our steadfast strength and resilience and endurance, our thinking does not stop at a ceasefire, but rather turns towards solutions that ensure lasting security in the Arabian Gulf, curbing the nuclear threat, missiles, drones, and the bullying of the Straits. In other words, he's saying he's on board with regime change. That's from the UAE.
And by the way, that famous UAE resilience, this is the country that bans people from taking photos of missile damage to hotels and skyscrapers. If you're an influencer, Pepper, watching this, just beware. You can go to prison in the UAE for taking a factually accurate photo of the fact that the country is getting damaged by Iranian missiles. Now, if that doesn't say resilience, I don't know what does.
Then this week, we heard that behind the scenes, Mohammed bin Salman, who's the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, is one of the main, if not the main, agitator to escalate the war at the moment. For all those people going, Israel is Israel, recall Saudi Arabia reportedly encouraged America to go into Iran in the first place. And now the New York Times says that MBS sees the war as a historic opportunity to reshape the Middle East. And he reportedly thinks America should seize energy infrastructure and force the government out of power. And he sees even a debilitated Iran as a grave and direct security threat, believing if America leaves the regime intact, they'll retaliate against Saudi Arabia in particular and their oil infrastructure. Really, the only difference between Saudi Arabia's position and Israel's position is that Netanyahu would be fine with leaving a failed state behind. The old smoking crater in the
Some would
ground.
argue that's probably what he wants.
Whereas Saudi Arabia is afraid of that as well.
Absolutely they
because
are,
they're worried what will fill the vacuum. They want a functional and peaceful Iranian government, which is a different government to this one. Like that, that's what they want. They, of course, deny all of that. But that's what seems to be the case. But if that's true, it's a concern because unlike so many conspiracy theories out there, Saudi Arabia is on the record as having convinced Trump to take military action before in Sudan last year.
That's right.
And secondly, Saudi Arabia, they own both Jared Kushner and Trump. Like, there's no denying this. They were the earliest and biggest investor in Jared Kushner's private equity firm, Affinity Partners, investing $2 billion. According to some estimates, Kushner personally has made $110 million just in investment management fees from Saudi Arabia's investment over the last 5 years, while providing pretty much nothing for them in return. Right now, according to the New York Times, he's trying to get Saudi Arabia to invest up to $5 billion more. Right now. And in January, Saudi Arabia financed a $7 billion development deal with the Trump organization, including a Trump-branded hotel and golf course and 500 mansions priced between $6.7 million and $24 million. So it's fair to say MBS has a little bit of influence over these guys. And he is the one who's jockeying to escalate and regime change. So when you're talking about if they take Karg Island, and Iran starts firing up, taking out desalination plants and oil plants, can you imagine what Saudi Arabia is going to be, how much they're going to be trying to apply the pressure to America then? And I don't know where that ends.
Now, just to go back to what we were talking about a couple of weeks ago, Saudi Arabia buys so many weapons from the United States, so many planes. Why isn't Saudi Arabia actually in the fight? Why isn't the Trump administration demanding that the Gulf states actually get in the fight the same way that he's demanding the NATO allies?
Thank you, Lindsey Graham.
Okay. Yeah, well, it's pretty tricky for Saudi Arabia. Okay. The House of Saud came perilously close to losing control of the country in the 1970s because there were a lot of Islamic militants who did not think that they were good guardians of the holiest sites in Islam, Mecca and Medina. Right, so there was a siege in Mecca. So ever since then, they have been very, very wary of the more militant elements in the country. And the way that they have responded is by promoting militancy. Okay, the United States can talk all it wants about Iran being the world's number one state sponsor of terror, and it is a state sponsor of terror. But Americans are aware of the fact that Osama bin Laden came from Saudi Arabia and that a bunch of the 9/11 hijackers came from Saudi Arabia. But far more than that, there is a lot of Saudi money promoting very militant versions of Islam worldwide, promoting Wahhabi versions of Islam. You can often hear the claim made that basically Saudi money is crushing diversity in the Islamic world, that there are all of these different varieties of Islam that used to exist, that it's just becoming increasingly uniform, this kind of Saudi-style Islam. Now, I don't think that that's the entire story. There have been a lot of changes happening in the Islamic world since the 1970s. In general, there's been a big revival. That's not all Saudi Arabia, but there is a lot of Saudi money funding views that we would definitely regard as militant in the West, and Saudi Arabia always gets a free pass for that. It's unfortunate that the one US president who ever really talked about trying to bring Saudi Arabia into line was Joe Biden, who said, we're going to make him a pariah, but then immediately gave up on that once Russia invaded Ukraine and he had to go begging to Saudi Arabia to increase oil supply. Okay. So, yes, Iran is not the only state sponsor of terror out there. Even if Saudi Arabia's sponsorship is, let's say, unofficial, there are still some pretty direct links between Saudi money and the kind of militancy that ultimately results in terrorism. But that's one reason why Saudi Arabia might not be wanting to be seen to engaging openly in warfare against Iran on the side of Israel and the United States. They have to be very worried about Islamic public opinion. There's also the fact that the main oil-producing areas of Saudi Arabia, a lot of these areas have Shia majorities in them, which makes for a very, very uncomfortable dynamic. We have to remember, because to me, a lot of this stuff just goes back to the idiotic farce of the Abraham Accords. So remembering what the Abraham Accords actually were, right, despite the grandiosity of the name, what they actually were was an agreement between Israel and the UAE and Bahrain, two countries that have never been at war with Israel. It was a security cooperation agreement between them, despite the fact that the UAE had been engaged in security cooperation with Israel since 2016. So it was always completely overblown what it was. It was, I think, that the audience for the Abraham Accords were people who were impressed by the fact that Israel would suddenly appear on the Emirates flight map, which they'd never seen before. Which, okay, yeah, that's not nothing, but it's not much at the same time. But the whole theory behind the Abraham Accords, Netanyahu's theory, which is successfully sold to the Trump family, was the idea that Israel could make peace and engage in good relations with the Arab world while ignoring the Palestinian issue. Okay, the Arab states had always maintained the Palestinian issue needs to be resolved before we can have peace and normal relations with Israel. Netanyahu's theory, which admittedly there was something to this, which was basically that there were Arab states out there that were so corrupt and amoral that they wouldn't care and that it would be easy to buy them off. Yeah, that worked to some extent. UAE, Bahrain. But the one that they always really wanted to get on board was Saudi Arabia. And that was the big hope of the first Trump administration. There were people in the Biden administration who were also hoping for that, were continuing to push for that. Okay, where did that lead? That led to October 7th. Okay, one of the reasons for October 7th was the fact that Hamas was very worried about the prospect of Israel doing these peace deals with Arab countries, especially Saudi Arabia, which would lead to basically the Palestinian issue being ignored forever.
I was going to say, and Joe Biden was definitely trying to work on Abraham Accords with Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. So that was not the only thing behind October 7th. There was a lot of just murderous militancy there. But from a strategic point of view as well, that was one of the reasons for Hamas. So the fantasy that you could just ignore the Palestinian issue, that you could just leave the Palestinians out of the entire equation. This was something that both Trump and Netanyahu promoted. That Trump thought that he could build this anti-Iran coalition, Israel, UAE, Saudi Arabia. Now, once again, you can see why he would have thought this, because certainly if you were to ask what does Saudi Arabia care about more, the Palestinians or dealing with Iran, they definitely care about dealing with Iran more. But the idea that you could just take the Palestinians out of the equation altogether when this was one of the biggest factors in Middle Eastern public opinion and had been for such a long time, when this is one of the reasons why a lot of people in a lot of Arab countries are so pissed off with their own governments all the time. It's because they don't see any action on this issue. The idea that you could just remove this completely, it was just a fantasy. Okay? And it is a fantasy that has gone disastrously wrong. It's a fantasy that Israel is continuing to promote with the idea, if you just take down Iran, then all of these problems like Hamas and Hezbollah are going to go away, as if it's not the conflict between Israel and Lebanon and the Palestinians that is the actual cause of these organisations, rather than just Iran's sponsorship. Okay,
I'm pretty sure Israel are taking care of Hezbollah at the same time.
They are. But this is the way that they always sell it to the United States. You cut the head off the snake. And, I mean, this is the whole logic behind their targeted assassinations, that if you just kill some key people, then the problem will go away. It never does.
No.
Israel has been doing this for decades, and it just gets worse. I don't know how many times you have to fail at something to realise that it's failure. But, I mean, this is one of the lessons we just have to keep relearning, I suppose.
Yeah. Now, getting back to the Strait, because there's plenty more happening there.
Yes.
I should say, even if Trump does unblock the Strait, I don't know he knows what to do with it. I've got a remarkable clip here because it shows that Trump obviously hasn't spent 1 second thinking about what he actually wants to happen in the Strait. Like, someone asked him and he just, you watch for yourself. And as far as I'm concerned, he's clearly making this up as he goes along. Have a look.
And who's in control of it? Will Iran still be able to control the flow of oil?
Be jointly controlled.
By who?
Maybe me. Maybe me.
You want the United States to be in
Me
control
and the Ayatollah, whoever the Ayatollah is, whoever the next Ayatollah. Look, and there'll also be a form of a very serious form of a regime change. Now, in all fairness, everybody's been killed from the regime. They're really starting off. There's automatically a regime change. But we're dealing with some people that I find to be very reasonable, very solid. The people within know who they are. They're very respected. And maybe one of them will be exactly what we're looking for.
Lucky during that clip said he's giving himself his own, to be fair.
Yeah.
I mean, he clearly has no idea. Like, he just fumbles around for a while and then just goes, we're dealing with some good people. It'll sort itself out.
I love the fact that he always seems to think, no matter where he is, who he's speaking to, he always seems to think that he's standing in front of an audience of black tie after dinner chortling drunks.
There is that vibe.
Maybe me. Maybe me and the Ayatollah, whoever that is.
I don't know what he has in mind, but I know what Iran has in mind, because Bloomberg and Lloyd's List Intelligence reckon that Iran is already charging oil tankers $2 million a pop to get
Yes.
through the Strait of Hormuz. That's what they have in mind.
Yes.
So,
I've seen, whispers of this around the internet.
yeah.
Payable in yuan.
Yeah, given what Scott Bessent said before about America strangling their financial system, I don't know if they're getting their hands on that money,
Yeah.
but
that's one version of this idea basically says that the IRGC are now just the toll keepers of the strait.
But the last few days, Dave, have been dominated by the ultimatum.
Yes.
This is from Trump. If Iran doesn't fully open without threat the Strait of Hormuz within 48 hours from this exact point in time, the United States of America will hit and obliterate their various power plants, staying with the biggest one first. Thank you for attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. Drink.
What really made that post was starting with the biggest one first.
That's very like what's the guy? Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget.
Yes.
It's very cartoon bad guy.
It is. It is. I was going to give it the dignity of like it's Darth Vader in Star Wars saying we're going to start with Alderaan first.
Yeah.
But no, it's not. It's far more Dr. Claw.
Yes. First of all, we should say Iran has a very decentralized energy system. Okay, it has more than 500 power plants. The biggest one in Iran supplies about 3% of Iran's energy. So if Trump wanted to do what he's threatening, it'd be quite a task. There'd be quite a lot of blowing things up.
I'm also reading from that post that he doesn't know the name of the biggest power plant.
Clearly. It would also be a war crime because he'd be attacking civilian infrastructure.
Yes.
All right. The person, by the way, who loves doing that kind of thing is his mate Putin. Maybe they had a strategy session or something. I don't know. And Putin said, tell you what works in Ukraine, mate. In response to that, an Iranian military spokesperson said, all energy infrastructure, as well as information technology and water desalination facilities linked to the US in the region will be targeted if they did that. So that would be zero restraint, he's saying there. Not only would that send the price of oil skyrocketing, of course, but it might make some areas of the Middle East literally uninhabitable. Like if you attack the desalination plants.
Yep.
Of course, there would then be retaliation back on Iran, which would make everything worse again.
Yep.
So you could see this was going nowhere constructive. And even Trump could see that.
Yep.
And so we then get 12 hours before the deadline, or maybe more relevantly, 2 hours before the market opened on Monday morning, Trump tweeted, get ready, I am pleased to report the United States of America and the country of Iran have had over the last 2 days very good and productive conversations regarding a complete and total resolution of our hostilities in the Middle East based on the tenor and tone of these in-depth, detailed and constructive conversations which will continue through the week. I have instructed the Department of War to postpone any and all military strikes against Iranian power plants and energy infrastructure for a 5-day period, subject to the success of the ongoing meetings and discussions. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. Jesus, dude, give the caps a rest. It's hard to read.
Yes.
And the manager's gone absolutely crazy.
He is in Persia. He can buy the carpets direct.
Yeah, we've already used that
for
joke.
reasonable prices. Yeah, we have.
The first thing that I want to note about that statement is, as Chaz said, just a couple of hours before markets opened on Monday morning, a 5-day pause.
Yeah.
In other words, we will start bombing again after the markets close next weekend, and we'll stop again before they open next week.
Everyone is onto this, Dave. Even Iran were pointing this out, right?
Yeah.
So do you think that is the case, that Trump is just purely just trying to manipulate the market here?
I don't think it's just purely manipulating the market, because as we will get to, even though there were not the kind of comprehensive talks he was talking about, there actually was some talk going on.
Okay.
But that was the main purpose of it, was to calm the markets down.
Yeah.
Yes.
We should say this is not the only time he's done that.
No.
I mean, the original attack on Iran was on the Saturday. Venezuela was on a Saturday. He does this. He likes doing things on Saturdays to give the opportunity for things to settle down before the market opens.
Yes.
Like, he obviously cares about the market moving up and down.
Yep.
And in this case, the oil prices went down when the market opened.
Yep.
It worked. If that was his intention, it worked. But also, there is another potential element. I mean, we are going to get to these negotiations now. There are, it does appear that they do exist in some form.
Yes.
But also, there's another reason to push it off 5 days.
Yep.
5 days is when all his buddies turn up that he's been deploying.
Yes.
Like that gives him that's about a week away. So if he wants to threaten them with the army,
Yep.
the army are coming.
Yes.
And they'll be there.
Yep.
When this deadline arrives. So that there is that aspect of it as well. Just one more thing about the market.
Yeah.
Do you think there is anyone from the administration who's actively profiteering off this?
Yes.
Because there definitely appears to be some insider trading
I
happening.
would just be surprised if there wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, given how easy it would be to do.
Well,
and given the standard of the people that he's been recruiting into his administration, I'd be surprised if there was not insider profiteering going on.
In this case, there were $580 million worth of futures contracts changing hands about 15 minutes before Trump's announcement.
Yeah.
And at the same time, the exact same minute, futures tracking the S&P 500 share index also jumped.
Yeah.
Exactly the same minute. And that was a suspiciously large amount of trading to occur at that point in time, given there was no information at that point in time. So, yeah. Anyway, we don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised either.
Yes.
Let's talk the negotiations. As soon as Trump tweeted that out, I think most people were waiting for Iran's denial, and it came immediately.
Yes.
On Fars news agency, they said that Iran's government had no direct contact with Trump, not even through intermediaries. Trump retreated after hearing that our targets would be all power plants in West Asia. Iran's Student News Network also linked to the IRGC, quoted in quote an informed source from the foreign ministry saying that they deny negotiations that Strait of Hormuz is closed to aggressors. Trump was asked about their denial. This is what he said.
Mr. President, Iran's foreign ministry says you're not telling the truth when it comes to productive conversations to end the war.
Well, they're going to have to get themselves better public relations people. We have had very, very strong talks. We'll see where they lead. We have major points of agreement. I would say almost all points of agreement. Perhaps that hasn't been conveyed. The communication, as you know, has been blown to pieces. They're unable to talk to each other. But we've had very strong talks. Mr. Witkoff and Mr. Kushner had them. They went, I would say, perfectly. I would say that if they carry through with that, it'll end that problem, that conflict. And I think it'll end it very, very substantially.
When this first broke, it's like, oh my God, who are you going to trust? You got the two most dishonest groups in the world, both making claims against each other.
Yes.
You just go like, who do you trust less out of the Trump administration and Iran? They both just lie so much. But you just flagged that we do have the sense that there are actually negotiations going on. Do you want to talk about them?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, it's very unlikely that there were ever any negotiations over the substance of the big deal that Trump was talking about. And I was just reminded of his claim that he had reached a comprehensive agreement with North Korea about nuclear weapons back in his first term, which turned out to be about a paragraph long and completely meaningless.
Yeah.
Okay, so the things that Trump claims are big agreements, just remember how many times he has said that a big peace deal between Ukraine and Russia is just around the corner. Yeah. There are just some minor details to work out, such as who owns Ukraine. Okay, so what has actually been happening? Patrick Wintour in The Guardian pointed out that as early as Saturday, Egypt's foreign minister was tweeting out that there were meetings going on between Iranian and American representatives through intermediaries.
Right.
And the intermediaries that were named were Egypt, Turkey, Pakistan, and Qatar.
Yes.
Now, this might not be entirely reliable information because Qatar has denied that it had anything to do with it at all, right? So just be very wary, like, from the beginning.
But Turkey and Pakistan have not denied it.
Turkey and Pakistan have not denied it. In fact, Pakistan wants to host negotiations, but Egypt also seems to be positioning itself as the intermediary. So there's going to be a bit of this jockeying taking place. Now, there's no reporting on what the substance of these talks between intermediaries has been about. Usually you would expect it to be about the kinds of conditions required for talks to take place. Okay. But that doesn't necessarily seem to have been what's happening, because what we have heard recently is that the United States actually sent Iran a 15-point peace plan through Pakistan, which was immediately rejected by the Iranians. Now, why was it rejected? Once again, according to Patrick Wintour, nobody's seen this, but reportedly it's pretty much the same 15-point peace plan that they were offering in 2025. And a few things have happened since 2025, like the current bombing campaign and Iran seizing the Straits of Hormuz. Yeah, so it's apparently not going to fly. So that included the kind of stuff about Iran pledging never to have a nuclear weapon, the stuff about giving away all of its nuclear material. It might have been that the US agreeing to supply it with nuclear fuel for a limited civilian weapons program, that sort of thing. All the stuff that Iran, large parts of which Iran has already rejected. Trump did say at some point that Iran was agreeing to not enrich uranium. That was the point at which I knew that Trump was completely full of shit, because that would be a massive, massive change in the Iranian position. This is one that Iranians have been prepared to die for, is the uranium enrichment. Okay. So what's Iran's own plan? Well, it's not 15 points. It's a lot simpler than that. It wants reparations, and it wants recognition of Iranian sovereignty over the Straits of Hormuz.
According to Press TV,
yes,
I've got 5 conditions here. I'll just read them out.
There are a few more.
Yeah. A complete halt to aggression and assassinations by the enemy.
Yep.
The establishment of concrete mechanisms to ensure that the war is not reimposed on the Islamic Republic. Guaranteed and clearly defined payment of war damages and reparations.
Yep.
The conclusion of the war across all fronts and for all resistance groups involved throughout the region. That's one of the proxies there.
Yeah.
Iran's exercise of sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz is and will remain Iran's natural and legal right, and they constitute a guarantee for the implementation of the other parties' commitments and must be recognised.
Yes. Okay, so that is the main point. It's like, okay, we are the toll keeper for the Strait of Hormuz now.
Yeah.
As we were talking about last week, it is very difficult ever to get a credible guarantee from another power that they won't do something, whether it's they won't attack you or whether it's they won't develop a nuclear program. You need to have an actual deterrent. And this is what Iran realizes it has now.
By the way, I just at the end of my reading,
yes,
I saw an article which I don't think was confirmed at that point in time, but it may have since been confirmed of the 11 points.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
In Trump's demands, there were other points, but they were what Trump was going to give them.
Right. Yeah.
What Trump's demands were, according to this was Israel's Channel 12.
Yep.
Iran must dismantle existing nuclear capabilities. Iran must commit never to pursue nuclear weapons. No uranium enrichment on Iranian territory. Iran must hand a stockpile of enriched uranium to the IAEA. The Natanz, Isfahan and Fordo nuclear facilities must be dismantled. The IAEA must be granted full access to Iran's nuclear facilities. Iran must abandon its regional proxy paradigm. Iran must cease funding, directing and arming its proxies. The Strait of Hormuz must remain open. Iran's missile program must be limited in both range and quantity. Iran must limit its use of missiles to self-defense.
So, this genius plan that Trump has come up with, the great deal maker, the big negotiator, what he's proposing is, in exchange for Iran giving up this massive piece of leverage over the Straits of Hormuz, it gives up all its other leverage as well.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that it's going to take historical perspective to understand what a bad deal maker Trump is, because I think we can already see it. But we are going to be living with the effects of Trump's terrible attempts at deal making for a long time.
See, you say that, but I don't know why you and everyone is so negative about the negotiations when master negotiator Pete Hegseth is also on the case. It's not just Trump. It's a two-headed snake.
Okay,
here.
yes, yeah.
Let's have a look what Pete Hegseth has to say.
And that's why we see ourselves as part of this negotiation as well. We negotiate with bombs.
How can you argue with that? Master negotiator. So, yeah, then the negotiations.
Look, I mean, it is a tenet of contemporary international relations theory, and it has been for a long time, that violence is a part of negotiations, right? That it's, the coercion and the threat of coercion, this is part of your bargaining power. Yeah, so I can see that point. But Hegseth's brilliant negotiation has included dropping a bomb on a girls' school on the very first day of the campaign that guaranteed that basically if there was anyone in the world outside of Israel and the US who might be sympathetic to this, they immediately lost their sympathy.
It wasn't a great PR coup.
No, it was not.
This is what Trump has to say about the negotiations. He thinks they're going brilliantly, for your information.
They want very much to make a deal. We'd like to make a deal too. We're going to get together today by probably phone because it's very hard to find a country. It's very hard for them to get out, I guess. But we'll at some point very, very soon meet. We're doing a 5-day period. We'll see how that goes. And if it goes well, we're going to end up with settling this. Otherwise, we'll just keep bombing our little hearts out.
He's been talking to Pete Hegseth.
He has been. Look, the thing that I keep coming back to, which is a point that is so obvious that it's easy to overlook it, is these negotiations are going to be about reopening the Straits of Hormuz.
Yes.
The Straits of Hormuz were open before this war began.
That is true.
The Straits of Hormuz were open despite the Iran-Iraq war. The Straits of Hormuz were open despite the Second Iraq War. The Straits of Hormuz were open despite the US-Israeli bombing campaign against Iran last year. Through all of that, the Straits of Hormuz remained open and shipping remained almost entirely unimpeded throughout all of that. It took this terribly thought-out campaign to finally provoke the Iranians into exercising the leverage of closing the Straits of Hormuz, and now they know that there's nothing that they can do about it. That's all that you need to know to understand the relative leverage that both sides are bringing into these negotiations.
That's a fair point.
And that's where Pete Hegseth's style negotiation gets you.
Yes.
That Pete Hegseth's contribution is Iran finally took control of the Straits of the Hormuz and now they won't give them back.
And then there was that present as well.
Yes.
That Trump said he was given.
Yeah.
They did something yesterday that was amazing, actually. They gave us a present, and the present arrived today. And it was a very big present worth a tremendous amount of money. And I'm not going to tell you what that present is, but it was a very significant prize. And they gave it to us, and they said they were going to give it. So that meant one thing to me: we're dealing with the right people.
Was it a giant horse?
That's a good line. Do you not know what the present was?
No, I don't.
I know what the present was.
What was the present?
Iran let some ships through the Strait of Hormuz.
Oh.
When they'd said all along
that
they would let ships through the Strait of Hormuz as long as they weren't allies of America.
Yeah, they let some Chinese ships through.
Yeah, I don't know what country they were from.
That's what he was talking about?
That's what he was talking about.
Oh, my God.
That was the present.
Just coming back to the Straits of Hormuz again.
Yeah.
Because I just want to emphasize, as I said, it's going to take us, we're going to be living with the effects of Trump's bad negotiation for a long time. Just to realize how much things have changed with the Straits of Hormuz being shut down. It's not just that they are currently shut down. It's the fact that we have been shown that they can be shut down.
Yeah.
Which means that for the rest of the history of the world, this is something that can happen.
Yeah.
We didn't know that it could happen prior to this, and so we engaged in all kinds of risky exercises, but it had never happened. Now we know it can happen.
Yeah, I was going to say, what Trump has done, ironically,
yes,
I don't know if Iran's going to do this, but he's given Iran a reason to not have a nuclear program.
Yeah.
Because until now, the nuclear program was their ultimate defense.
That's right.
They don't need that anymore. They have a different ultimate defense now, thanks to this war.
Maybe this was four-dimensional chess. But I mean, okay, so among the things that this means is that trying regime change in Iran is incredibly risky now because of the possibility that the country fragments, which, once again, might be something that Israel is actually aiming at. But if the country fragments, then God knows who is going to be able to shoot at the Strait of Hormuz, right? So it raises the possibility that if you get rid of the Iranian state, then you're handing over control of the Straits of Hormuz to God knows who. Are shipping premiums in this part of the world ever going to be the same again? Surely this is a new risk that is now going to be factored into marine insurance for the rest of time because we now know what can happen. Yeah, I think that this is a permanent change. Iran might not have control of the Straits of Hormuz forever, but now it has been shown Iran or someone else can shut down the Straits of Hormuz. And it's a very powerful weapon.
A flag before we talk about Russia. Had correspondence from Nick. Since we're discussing the Iran war again, I was wondering what you make of the reporting that Russia's been providing Iran with intelligence support. Seems they're actually being pretty helpful rather than leaving Iran in the lurch like you were saying in the last couple of episodes. Also, the fact that Trump removed oil sanctions on Russia is surely just yet another piece of evidence for the, in my opinion, blatantly obvious idea that the Trump administration views Putin sympathetically as an ideological fellow traveller and wants to help him win his war. Nick is right that Russia does appear to have been very handy for Iran in this respect. They've been providing information on military targets for Iran to attack from their satellite surveillance. Iran doesn't have satellites. Russia does. So they can use them. In particular, Russia's telling them where American troops are, as well as their radar centres in particular. That's very useful information. And the weak spots to target. It's making, though, their drones, Iran's drones, way more successful than you would expect otherwise. It's not an exaggeration to say Russia is helping Iran kill Americans, but this is what Trump had to say about that.
You think Putin is helping them?
I think he might be helping them a little bit, yeah, I guess. And he probably thinks we're helping Ukraine, right?
And you are, right?
Yeah, we're helping them also. And so he says that. And China would say the same thing. It's like, hey, they do it and we do it, in all fairness.
Look, he's not lying. To be fair. Thanks, Lucky. He's not lying, but he seems very relaxed about it all, doesn't he? He just seems pretty calm about it.
The line, they probably think we're helping in Ukraine.
Yes. Yeah, that it's not necessarily obvious that there might be just a suspicion. Not nearly as angry there as he gets when, say, Britain does anything, or as angry as he gets when the Wall Street Journal runs an accurate headline about the war.
My thought here isn't even about Trump. My thought here is about something that I really don't like to think about, because if you follow this line of thinking too far, you end up in a very unpleasant place. We are looking at a war that could become a major regional war where Russia is militarily helping Iran and China is economically helping Iran, and the United States is fighting against Iran. Now, this is clearly not World War III, and it doesn't have to become World War III, because I would very much doubt that Russia and China would get directly involved in the fight that we're talking about. But this is a lot closer to World War III than most people would like to be.
It's certainly
Let's put it that way.
It's certainly a lot closer to World War III than all the fantasies that the Trump campaign was running with.
Yes.
That Kamala Harris would bring us.
Exactly.
About 2 years ago.
Yes. Yeah. Now, let me reiterate, I'm not saying that this is World War III or that it's going to turn into it. But it's, as I say, it's a lot closer than all of the fantasies that have been put forward previously about what World War III might look like. And let's hope that all of these superpowers continue to have the sense not to fight each other directly. Now, given that, that hasn't happened over Ukraine, hopefully that will continue not to happen here. But it's not great to have another risk factor like this introduced.
Absolutely. By the way, in this area of Russia, we should play a clip which hasn't been played nearly enough, which is just an amazing clip of what Steve Witkoff has to say about whether Russia is helping Iran or not.
Do we think that the Russians have shared intelligence about the location of U.S. military assets? And if they have, why would we be giving waivers on Russian oil sanctions?
Well, I'm not an intel officer, so I can't tell you. I can tell you that yesterday on the call with the president, the Russians said that they have not been sharing. That's what they said. So, you know, we can take them at their word, but they did say that. And yesterday morning, independently, Jared and I had a call with Ushakov, who reiterated the same. So
that's the kind of canny judgment that Wickoff brings to all these negotiations.
Yes, it's about as good as his ability to tie a tie in an aesthetically pleasing manner.
Anyway, so as you said, they did lift sanctions on Russian oil recently, same as Iran, just the oil that's at sea.
Yep.
That is allowed Putin to sell it at market prices, which comes on top of the $150 million per day. They were already getting more from oil revenue just from oil prices being higher.
Yep.
Now, Bassett has a certain logic here again. His logic is if we sell more Russian oil, that will reduce world oil prices.
Yep.
And they'll be selling more oil at a lesser price than they are at the moment. So they make the same amount of money.
Look, all that you need to do is to look at the way that the market actually reacted to these moves.
Yeah.
Which was nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, however much oil this temporarily injects back into the global economy, it is nothing compared to the big issues that are actually at stake.
It's the same as what I said before with Iran. It's the pool hasn't changed.
Yes, yeah.
It's just become official rather than unofficial.
That's right.
And Russia are making more money now.
What we have seen, if we look at all the different moves that Trump has made to try to calm the markets, the only thing that consistently works is when he makes a move that signals that he wants to get out. That's the only thing that works.
Yeah.
And this is why prices have been lower this week, because I think that these comments about talks signal that Trump knows that there isn't going to be a purely military solution to this conflict.
So do you think, to answer Nick's question, that Trump is deliberately sending more money to Putin to help him win the Ukraine war?
I don't know about that, because Trump is all over the place on Ukraine. I completely agree with Nick that he sees Trump as an ideological fellow traveller, and that a lot of people, sees Putin as an ideological fellow traveller, and that a lot of people in the MAGA movement see Putin in the same way, though. I still think, though, that there is quite a lot of just residual, visceral suspicion of Russia there with Trump and with the MAGA movement about they don't really want to see Russia just completely overrun this other country. However, it's very complicated. I think they definitely see themselves as more ideologically sympathetic with Putin than with Zelensky. I think that when you look at Trump's overall strategy of basically crush liberalism at home, crush liberalism abroad, this is one of the reasons why he treats Zelensky so badly and one of the reasons why he's not very sympathetic to Ukraine at all. I don't know, though, that he actively wants to help Putin win the war in Ukraine. I think that he badly wants some kind of settlement that will bring it to an end immediately, and doesn't matter to him how much Ukraine gets carved up in that. But I think that's different from actually wanting to help Putin win the war.
Okay, look, there's a few more things I wanted to talk about with the war, but I don't want to dominate the entire pod with this. There is one thing I want to ask you to talk about, because I know you prepared it, and I think it's important.
Yes,
which is the thing which doesn't get discussed much is Lebanon.
Yeah,
like it just gets ignored all the time, and right now that might be where the action is. To be honest. Can you talk to us about that?
There's certainly been more killing happening in Lebanon than there has been in Iran over the last week or maybe even 2 weeks. Okay, so the background to all of this, if we're going to go way back, Israel has occupied southern Lebanon before. So it occupied southern Lebanon from 1982 to 2000. That was its first war against Hezbollah. And that was in the context of the Lebanese civil war, where Israel allied itself with Christian armies, with the South Lebanon Army, especially in the fight against Hezbollah. And since then, there have been several Israeli incursions into Lebanon. There was a big one in 2006. There are people in Israel's government, especially Bezalel Smotrich, who say outright that Israel should annex southern Lebanon, should annex that 30 kilometres of southern Lebanon for security reasons. What they're doing at the moment is invading to create what they're calling a 30-kilometre buffer. Okay, so immediately after the the Israeli attacks on Iran, the American attacks on Iran, Hezbollah started firing rockets into Israel. Not the first time that they've done that. They also fired rockets into Israel after October 7th.
Sorry, can we just jump in just very quickly say, Hezbollah is not Lebanon.
Yes.
People need to understand that. The Lebanon government do not like Hezbollah. No. The Lebanon government have been trying to turn Hezbollah into a political group rather than a terrorist group for a long period of time.
Yes.
I don't know if they've been successful in any way, shape or form, but Israel doesn't think they've been moving fast enough.
Yes. So Hezbollah is a Shia militia, right? So they fired rockets in after October 7th. That led to another war with Hezbollah. The ceasefire to that in 2024, one of the conditions was that Hezbollah not rearm. It has been rearming, so it's been violating the ceasefire, but Israel has also violated the ceasefire multiple times with incursions into Lebanon. Okay, so it has reopened the Lebanon war since the Iran war began, because of the fact that Hezbollah was firing missiles into northern Israel. But obviously the way that Israel has responded has been on a much bigger scale. As we've seen, more than 1,000 Lebanese have been killed and about 1 million Lebanese have been displaced. And they've been warned that they can't go back until the Hezbollah problem is solved, until Lebanon's government disarms Hezbollah, which it clearly does not have the capacity to do. So Lebanon's government has taken steps like expelling Iran's ambassador. Yeah, but I don't think the Lebanese government actually has the capacity to disarm Hezbollah. So Israel has decided that it's going to do it itself.
They've made Hezbollah's military activities illegal.
Yes.
I'm not sure Israel's impressed by that either.
So this has obviously been at the expense of a lot of Lebanese life and a lot of Lebanese homes. Human Rights Watch, which is a New York-based organisation, alleges that Israel is using white phosphorus, which is banned under international law. There have been some pretty high-profile horrific incidents, including the death of a Maronite priest in southern Lebanon as a result of an attack. The US has reportedly asked Israel to protect Christian populations in Lebanon, which is a very typical request of this administration, but which has been described as potentially an excuse for ethnic cleansing. Yeah, so that's the situation in Lebanon at the moment.
And what we're waiting to see at the moment is not clear.
Yeah,
is this inverted commas buffer zone?
Yeah,
a stalking horse for a full occupation
for annexation?
Yes, because certainly some elements of Israel very much want that.
Yeah.
And some elements don't.
Yes.
And it's not really clear at the moment which way Netanyahu is leaning.
Israel has also said that if there is any agreement between the US and Iran, it is not going to change what it's doing in Lebanon. Even though Iran is saying that stopping the war in Lebanon would have to be a precondition of any peace. Yep.
Okay, there's only one more thing I wanted to add on the war for now. I mean, there are other things, if I have the time later on, I'll put in, but just this one I want to be in this ep. Do you have anything else on the war you want to add?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Just one, this story I think is extremely important and has been severely underreported. So I'm going to make sure this gets in here.
Yes.
This week, Iran fired 2 missiles at Diego Garcia.
Yes.
Which is the British-controlled port that Trump's been using recently as a base of sorts for his B-2 bombers.
It's been a really bad month for porn enthusiasts in general.
But the good news for the porn enthusiasts is that neither missile hit Diego Garcia. One didn't make it at all. The other was intercepted. No damage done, right? No, here's the problem. Diego Garcia is 4,000 kilometers away. So theoretically, Iran's missiles shouldn't be able to get there. So why and how are they firing at Diego Garcia? At least the missiles they admit to having shouldn't get there. That range now, if they can get to Diego Garcia, doubles what Iran admits to having up to this point in time.
Yeah.
We've got a map here showing the approximate range that they now have as a minimum with these missiles. It reaches all the way to Germany. And so recall one of the reasons that Trump came up for the war, one of the many reasons he came up for the war, was to stop them developing long-range missiles. Marco Rubio mentioned this, if you recall.
Yes.
Iranian Foreign Minister Araghchi said this at the time before the war.
Have missiles capable of reaching America? Was Iran planning to directly attack the United States?
Well, this is not true. This is, in fact, misinformation. We have capability to produce missiles, but we have intentionally limited ourselves to below 2,000 kilometers of range because we don't want to be felt as a threat by anybody else in the world. We have not started any plan to increase the range of our missiles more than what it is right now.
Sorry, that was 1 week into the war. So this was not before the war, it was just in the beginning of the war. Now that's clear, flat out lie. We quoted that. That's a lie.
Yeah.
Well, at least it was. If it's okay, he might not know, maybe, but it's not true.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
And that's dangerous for 2 reasons. One, it places most of Europe in Iran's range for missiles.
Yeah.
Number 2, they appear to have developed these longer range missiles through their space program. Now, the space program was something that Iran claimed was for peaceful purposes.
Yes.
Much like they said their nuclear program was for peaceful purposes. So just in case you didn't already severely distrust Iran's promises about nuclear bombs and not wanting to build nuclear bombs, this missile revelation should at least give you pause.
Yeah.
Because this is an example of them doing exactly the same thing with missiles that they've been doing with nuclear weapons, saying exactly the same things, but they lied. And they kept them secret, and then they used them when they needed them. Didn't use them very well, but they still did. So I'm just braising this because the Trump administration's explanations for this war have been a complete joke doesn't mean that Iran isn't a massive problem. It's just a question of how you solve that massive problem in an effective way.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about all this?
Well, I keep thinking of the narrative that Iran is so crazy that as soon as they have these missiles, they're going to use them against us. Clearly not. They use these weapons when they get attacked. Right. Now, I keep thinking about this when earlier this week, when 2 missiles went very close to hitting nuclear sites in Israel, in southern Israel, and Benjamin Netanyahu was there saying, see, this is what Iran does. And there have been a few of these statements coming out of Israel saying what this war has done is to reveal the true nature of the Iranian regime. This is why we need to attack them. The other reading of that is this is what Iran does when they get attacked. This is what Iran does when you attack them. One of the big lessons of this war should be Iran is a lot more dangerous when you're attacking them than when you're not attacking them. Which should be fairly obvious because that's pretty much a universal rule that someone's going to be more dangerous when you're attacking them than when you're not attacking them. But as I said last week, there's this unique demonology about Iran that, well, they're so crazy that if they have any capacity to do this, then that's when they're going to, that's when they're going to strike because they're so crazy. They don't mind all getting killed just so they can kill someone else. That is clearly not true. They have weapons that they don't use. As I said, he doesn't want to be seen as a threat to, to the rest of the world, but they have them when they need them. So, the idea that the only way to deal with Iran is constantly attacking them, I think we can see where that is going. Nowhere good.
Yes. Okay, let's talk about the DHS shutdown then, because that's the other major story of the week. So we got about 140,000 DHS employees still receiving pay, including 51,000 Coast Guard service members, 25,000 officials at ICE, 57,000 at the Customs and Border Protection. That all comes from the big, beautiful bill. But there's about 120,000, so it's about 50-50, 120,000 working without pay as, quote, emergency workers.
Yep.
And then there's a few that have been furloughed. Not many, but there's a few. 80% of the Office of Intelligence and Analysis is working without pay. They're the primary office tracking terrorism and threats at the moment. They're kind of important. Here's a stat for you, Dave. Out of 145 days in this fiscal year so far, bear in mind the fiscal year starts in October.
Yep.
82 days have seen DHS shut down.
Mm-hmm.
So between those two shutdowns, because there was one at the end of last year as well, adding that up, that's 57% of the fiscal year to date has seen essential workers working without pay. 57%.
That's bad.
Yes, that's basically 6 months now.
Yeah.
Yeah, of the of the fiscal year. So that's bad, yes. And there have been reports of 4-hour queues at airports, etc., for ages.
Mm-hmm. But the reports of 4-hour queues, that's what the airports in many cases are advertising as the wait.
Yes, that's true. It's a good point.
Including in Atlanta, which I think is the busiest airport in the United States. That's what they're advertising as the wait. Yeah.
And it appeared for a little while there that the White House was... This standoff is over conditions for ICE.
Yeah.
I went through those in detail in Unleashed a few a while back, and the important thing was all 10 of those conditions that the Democrats were negotiating were all either just the law or current policy.
Yes,
like they didn't ask for anything new.
No,
it's just like there were things like don't deport Americans.
Yeah,
which is against the law. That kind of stuff. Anyway,
wear your identification badges.
Yes. Anyway, the White House appeared to be at least partly conceding very quietly in the background. They offered to expand body cameras.
Yep.
They offered to limit civil enforcement of sensitive locations like hospitals and schools.
Yep.
They offered to increase detention facility oversight. They offered to identify officers, which is that's an important one for me. No more random clothes and stuff, like to actually have their agencies and like a number, a license number or something, so identification number. And to adhere to existing law and practice of not deporting US citizens or detaining US citizens for immigration reasons. Those are all lovely things for them to do. That's about half the Democrat requests.
Yep.
For those keeping count, that means they weren't budging on wearing face masks, on having a reasonable use of force policy, and having no administrative warrants for entering private property, only judicial warrants. The Dems sent over a counteroffer. We don't know what it was. But the queues in the airports reached mammoth proportions, and then it all fell apart. Dave, would you like to take us from there?
And I just want to say the queues in the airport were bad to start with.
Yes.
Okay, if you've ever done air travel in the United States, look, especially when you compare it to air travel in Australia, which domestically is kind of relatively frictionless, it's a nightmare. When I was living in Seattle, I would get to the airport 3 hours early for a domestic flight. I remember once thinking, if I get there before 5 a.m., surely the queue is going to be reasonable. Nah, 45 minutes long, 50 minutes long. Yeah. So, look, it wasn't good to begin with. So, how do you deal with this problem of queues at airports that are there because of the fact that there are a limited number of TSA officers?
Yes.
TSA officers being the ones who have to do the things like check people's ID and operate the security apparatuses. And look, I'm sure they have something to do with the one element of American airports that I really love, which are those delightful drug dogs.
So cute.
It's the TSA who is trained and authorized to do all that. So how do you solve that problem?
How, Dave?
Send a bunch of ICE officers to airports to do nothing.
Yeah. Well, when you say a bunch,
yes,
barely a bunch. That's something which hasn't been talked about much.
Yeah.
Do you know how many were sent?
How many in total?
In the entire country?
How many?
100 to 150.
Wow.
Let's just put that in context,
yes.
okay? There were 400 TSA agents that just quit.
Yes.
Over the last few weeks.
Yep.
To begin with.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a whole bunch of them doing gig work.
Yes.
You've got 11%
Yep.
of them not on Saturday not turning up to work.
Yes.
11% absentee rate.
Yep.
There are 50,000 TSA agents, Dave. So that's 5,500 people not showing up for work. And by the way, that's the good news. So that was 11.5%. That's the good news because 42% didn't show up at the George Bush Intercontinental Airport in Houston. 33% didn't show up at the JFK International Airport in New York. And 33% didn't turn up at the Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport.
Yeah, that's the one with 4-hour delays.
Yeah. So anyway, so my point is to replace the 5,500 people, fully trained workers who didn't show up, they supplied 100 to 150 ICE officers who were untrained to 13 airports in the country.
Yes. They can't actually do anything. These guys, they're not going to handle a drug dog.
No.
Yeah, they're not going to.
Not even a cute one.
No.
Yeah.
It is just the ultimate in security theatre. These guys just standing around being ICE.
To be fair.
Yes.
Sting. It sounds like the kind of idea that you wouldn't expect from like a competent administration, doesn't it?
No,
It's not. Where would you expect to hear that idea, do you reckon? I'm genuinely asking you, where would you expect to hear that idea? What venue would you think, that's the kind of thing they'd say in that particular venue, on that particular medium? Do you have any thoughts?
I was going to say, once again, after dinner at Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, look at that. That's one place. That's why people would often say the pub.
Yeah.
I'll give you another place you expect to hear this kind of idea.
Yeah.
Talkback radio.
Ah, yes.
I tell you this because I'm about to share something with you, which I bet you don't know.
Okay.
Which is where this idea came from.
Yep.
Let me introduce you to Linda from Arizona, who rang up the Clay and Buck show on Friday afternoon, a talkback call.
Clay, I think I have a solution to the TSA problem. What we need to do is we need to supplement where we're missing out on TSA agents who can't afford to work for us anymore. We need to bring in ICE agents.
Linda, I'm going to say, it's kind of a brilliant idea.
Then Clay Travis thought such a brilliant idea. When he did his hit on Fox News that night, on Friday night, he said this.
I had a caller on the show, the Clay and Buck show today, Charlie, that had an interesting idea. What if President Trump announced that ICE agents were now going to be supplementing TSA agents inside of all of the airports? The ICE agents are still being paid. How quickly would Democrats panic if he said, hey, we're going to put some ICE agents in line with the TSA, help to expedite everybody? And oh, by the way, if we think you might be an illegal when you're coming through to try to get on an airplane, we're going to go ahead and arrest you at the airport, too. I think that might solve things in a hurry.
I'm not sure there's a huge epidemic of illegal immigrants catching planes around America, Dave.
No. Now, okay. If you're wondering who is Clay Travis.
Yeah, tell us.
Clay Travis is a sports media idiot.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, so he was recruited by Deadspin like 20 years ago as their college football correspondent or something like that, which was the beginning of the end of Deadspin as a website. It was the sign that things were really going downhill. He has since become just this right-wing sports complainer who has a site called Outkick the Coverage, which is uniformly awful. And yeah, talkback radio is his absolutely natural medium. Although what's he doing on the Clay and Buck show? Wasn't he touted as Rush Limbaugh's replacement for a while?
He might have been. I don't know.
Yeah, or is that Rush Limbaugh's replacement? Is Clay and Buck?
It might be. I mean, the thing about Rush Limbaugh's replacement, you're talking about on which station? Because he's on so many stations.
Syndicated.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But all I know is that was Friday night. He did that.
How much would Democrats panic? I love his pronunciation of Democrats as Democrats.
And then on Saturday morning, Trump tweets out, if the radical left Democrats don't immediately sign an agreement to let our country, in particular our airports, be free and safe again, I'll move our brilliant and patriotic ICE agents to the airports where they will do security like no one has ever seen before, including the immediate arrest of all illegal immigrants who have come into our country with heavy emphasis on those from from Somalia who have totally just destroyed with the approval of a corrupt governor, attorney general, and Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, the once great state of Minnesota. I look forward to seeing ICE in action in our airports. Make America great again. President Donald J. Trump. Leaving aside, like I've told you many times, the vast majority of Somalians in Minnesota are American citizens.
That's right.
Let's leave that aside.
And they're not flying through Atlanta Airport randomly.
No, they're not. And note the way he picked up Clay Travis's little thing about that. Oh, yeah, well, what will happen when they enforce immigration policies at the airport? The Democrats all hate that. Anyway.
But I love this fantasy. I mean, you often see it about the military as well. Just the idea, if some government agency is failing to perform some task, just send the Marines in to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, this has now been transferred to ICE. The idea that ICE are these supermen who can do anything. They'll really get those queues moving.
The thing is, though,
yes,
I don't want to brush past the fact, Dave, that this current administration is getting their ideas from talkback radio.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, that is big time. Like, people just brush past it. Let's go, oh, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
But that's not whatever. This is talkback radio. I mean, maybe just because I used to listen to talkback radio when I was a kid, and I know the kind of insane shit that gets on that.
You used to be on talkback radio.
Yeah, I was a troll caller all the time.
Yeah.
But my point is, if the government started taking my suggestions, that would be very bad for the nation, let me tell you. Anyway.
Jazz from Sydney says, what about teleportation?
But the thing is that this is also kind of funny and just so pathetic. Trump still claimed the idea was his, even though it obviously wasn't. Have a look at this.
Whose idea was it?
Mine. That was mine.
And can I ask you said
That was like the paperclip. You know the story of the paperclip? 182 years ago, a man discovered the paperclip. It was so simple. And everybody that looked at it say, why didn't I think of that? ICE was my idea.
Oh, my God. The paperclip was not invented 182 years ago. He's a compulsive liar. He just reeled that off with just such confidence.
Such precision.
Yeah, I know. But the paperclip was invented and it was patented in either 1892 or 1899, depending on what paperclip you define as the paperclip.
Mm-hmm.
Point is, he just, without even a blink of shamelessness, just made up a number. And that while he was claiming that this was his invention because he's so needy and oh my God, it's just sad.
Why didn't anyone else think of sending ICE to airports?
Anyway, so that's where this came from, Dave.
Linda from Arizona, we salute you.
Yes. So we have 100 to 150 ICE officers going to 13 airports, like I said. Bearing in mind that they're replacing 5,500 people, probably unlikely going to make a huge difference. But they also didn't wear masks. Trump ordered them not to wear masks. Probably a good idea if they don't want people to have the shits with them. I mean, but okay, let me put this to you, though.
Yes.
Like, devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
Like, okay, yes, ICE aren't trained. But there are things that they can do to relieve the pressure on the TSA. I mean, Tom Homan talked about this. Like, we should play what Tom Homan had to say. Like, as always, Tom Homan, he really struggles to speak. But, if you can get past that, if you get past the marbles in his mouth, he usually at least speaks in sensible logic.
I mean, we've got TSA agents covering exits, people that enter through the exits. Certainly a highly trained ICE law enforcement officer can cover an exit, makes people don't go through those exits, entering the airport through the exits, and that stuff like that relieves that TSA officer to go to screening and to reduce those lines. So wherever we can provide extra security, I don't see an ICE agent looking at an X-ray machine because they're not trained in that. There are certain parts of security that TSA is doing that we can move them off those jobs and put them in the specialized jobs, help move those lines.
You need to speak Homanese, but essentially what he's saying is logical. He's saying ICE can do crowd control.
Yeah.
They're trained in that. And while they're doing crowd control and manning exits, TSA don't need to man exits and don't need to do crowd control. They can focus on the stuff they're actually trained in, which is, running the X-ray machines and stuff like that.
And giving the drug dogs treats.
Yeah. So let's forget that. So if rather than putting 150 ICE officers in there, they put 4,000 ICE officers. Perhaps they put the National Guard in.
Every exit covered.
If they put in other people to do the shit that anyone can do, to free up the TSA to focus on the stuff that only they can do.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be a good idea?
I'm going to say no.
I can't wait to hear this logic. Okay?
I'm going to say no.
Yeah.
Because everybody knows what ICE is actually there for.
Yeah.
Everybody knows how ICE has been behaving over the last few weeks, which has included arresting American citizens because they don't look like the ICE officer's understanding of who an American citizen is.
Yep.
I don't think that it's going to help anybody to have people not wanting to engage in air travel, which is already a harrowing enough experience for anybody who looks Muslim in the United States dealing with the TSA, let alone having this layer of ICE there as well, where people will just be afraid, okay, if I go to the airport, okay, maybe I'm not going to immigration detention, but now there's this other layer of, I'm going to get interrogated, I'm going to get profiled, I am probably not going to make my flight. Putting ICE there, I don't think is a way of speeding anything up. Yeah.
Okay. Look, I understand your point of view.
Yeah.
What I would say is that what I don't have time for is I can understand why people would be scared of ICE.
Yes.
Because obviously they've got a reputation.
Yep.
What I don't have time for, people like a few Democrats have been acting as if ICE are a bunch of wild animals that when you place them in an environment, they'll just start killing everyone. I'm citing Senator Richard Blumenthal here, who tweeted out, ICE agents at airports will only aggravate delays in lines, disrupting checks, interrogating travellers, dragging parents from children, detaining citizens, brutalising families, shooting and even killing. And Hakeem Jeffries had this to say.
The last thing that the American people need are for untrained ICE agents to be deployed at airports all across the country, potentially to brutalize or in some instances kill them. We've already seen how ICE conducts itself. These are untrained individuals when it comes to doing the current job that they have for the most part, let alone deploying them in close exposure in highly sensitive situations at airports across the country.
Do you agree it's a bit much to suggest that ICE officers are going to go around just killing people?
No, I don't, because that was how the Department of Homeland Security was promoting them for weeks.
What's that?
That we're going to send this force into American cities and they're just going to run riot. That they're going to crush all of the resistance, right? That when they did kill people, they were defended as that domestic terrorists. They were going after domestic terrorists. That when they were separating children from families, that was because those children were abandoned, right? The reason why Democrats are coming out with these statements now is because that is how ICE has behaved over the last few weeks, over the last few months, right? And that kind of behaviour was revelled in by people like Kristi Noem and Greg Bovino, right? That is actually what they wanted to promote, that if you fuck with ICE, you die. That was what they wanted to get across.
Yeah, as part of the operation. It's not like if you see an ICE officer like at home with their kids, they're going to turn around and shoot you in the face.
Chaz, what kind of distinctions are you making here? In that, okay, well, it's okay. We just want to see them as behaving like that in that particular mission. Put them into another law enforcement environment as a result of a proposal which was specifically antagonistic, which was Clay Travis, sports radio loudmouth, chortling about, this is going to terrify the Democrats. This is going to scare the Democrats. And now we are expected to say, no, these are just ordinary people.
Okay.
Yeah, no, don't buy it at all.
Fair enough. The other thing that annoyed me was the culture war aspect of it. The culture war I find just exhausting. I hate any culture war issues.
Yeah.
Like I said, there were 100 to 150 people in 13 airports. Apparently in a couple of airports they made the difference. Like apparently in Atlanta, whether they made a difference or just had a better day, there was a big difference the day they were there in Atlanta. Right? My understanding is there were probably 2 or 3 airports where they made a difference. And then there were a few airports that were staying around doing nothing.
Yeah.
Right? But, conservatives were trying to sell, Trump solved the issue. Clever Trump, he's done it again. Brilliant Trump with his brilliant ideas. And there was a great example of this from Lauren Boebert.
So President Trump sends ICE agents to the airports across the country. And while the rest of our country has 3+ hour waits, thanks Democrats, Minneapolis Airport's TSA wait time right now is less than 5 minutes.
First of all, I think her camera is scared of her.
Yes.
It was shaking the whole time. Secondly, there's a few points that need to be made. The Minneapolis airport waiting time was always 5 minutes.
Yes.
Before then,
I
as
don't
well.
know where Minneapolis ranks in terms of busiest airports in America, but it's outside the top 30.
And not busy enough.
Well outside the top 30.
I'll tell you this much, it's not busy enough for any ICE agents to have been sent there. So, like I said, these culture war battles are exhaustingly stupid. By the way, can I just say just one little thing before we talk about the deal, because there's a potential deal coming up here now.
Yeah.
We talk about Fetterman a bit on this pod.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. And some people, conservatives in particular, think that the reason why Democrats hate Fetterman so much, and they really do hate him so much. Like, do you know his net approval is at the moment?
Oh, it's minus 40?
Minus 40, yes. Yeah. That's like a record.
Yeah.
Like it's so much worse than people who've been primaried in the past.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's net approval amongst Democrats. It's minus 40.
Yeah.
The reason I hate him so much is not because he campaigned as a progressive and has become a moderate.
Yeah.
Because he's from Pennsylvania. Everyone knows that he's going to be a middle-of-the-roader.
Yes.
As a senator. Like, they expect that.
Yes, yeah.
Like, it's, so that, like, no one expects, say, Mark Kelly to be a radical leftist in Arizona, for instance. They understand the situation.
Yeah.
But what I think makes people hate Fetterman is the fact he goes out of his way to bash other Democrats on Fox News.
Yes.
Like, there's an example here from this DHS shutdown, which I just took and I said, Fetterman, stop doing this.
I've been consistently the only Democrat to vote against this shutdown. It's wrong.
Don't do that. You can say, I've been consistently voting against this shutdown. It's wrong. You can say that on Fox News without dumping everyone else from your party in it, which you did. Like, you are promoting yourself on Fox News by running down your party.
Yes.
He does it all the time. It's very frustrating. Anyway, let's talk about the deal, though.
Yes.
Because it turns out there was a potential deal in the works before any of this happened. Last week,
yes,
there was a deal in the works. John Kennedy talked about this on Fox News, about what happened, emphasizing last week.
Senator Cruz and I came up with a plan. We said, look, it's a two-step process. The Democrats have offered to open up everything but ICE. Ted and I said, okay, let's accept their offer. And then at the same time, we would offer a bill for reconciliation where we don't need any Democratic votes to do whatever we wanted to do with ICE. And that way we're out of the shutdown and DHS is back open. We submitted that, Senator Thune submitted that to President Trump, as is his right. He said no deals with the Democrats.
So for those who aren't following, the whole deal was that the Democrats openly were saying, we are prepared to fund the TSA. We're prepared to fund the Coast Guard. We're just not going to fund ICE until you agree to our conditions.
Yes.
And they were happy. I think 6 times they proposed bills.
Yep.
They put forward bills where they funded everything but ICE.
Yes.
And so John Kennedy said, well, let's just accept that.
Yeah.
Let's take that funding and then let's just use reconciliation, because remember, you can get one reconciliation bill per year, and they have no reconciliation bill this year at the moment.
Yes.
So we'll just use that reconciliation bill to pay for ICE. And that's easy to do because reconciliation bills just need to pass what we call the Byrd rule. They need to be budgetary in impact. And so that's budgetary funding ICE.
Yeah.
So they can just raise the tax or get rid of a tax cut or something and pay ICE, and that they only need 50 votes for that.
Yeah.
That's the logic. And Trump said no. And we know this is true because Trump tweeted about this last week.
He did.
Saying, I don't think we should make any deal with the crazy country-destroying radical left Democrats unless and until they vote with Republicans to pass the Save America Act. It's far more important than anything else we're doing in the Senate. First of all, what are your thoughts about that, about the deal and Trump rejecting it?
It was very much the kind of deal that you would expect people like Kennedy and Thune to come up with. It was pretty pragmatic, and I'm not surprised that Trump rejected it. because it didn't have the theatricality that he wanted. Trump is all about having these big singular legislative wins, and he's made it very clear that the win for him has to include the provisions of the Save America Act as well, and no men in women's sports.
Yes.
He will not accept any plan for reopening airports that doesn't involve no men in women's sports.
That's true. Because it's very relevant, of course.
No plan for voter ID in America that doesn't involve no men in women's sports.
Yeah, that's worth emphasising.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it's not going to surprise anyone. I think that's a pretty stupid decision from Trump, because until then, the Democrats were owning the queues in the airports. They could say as much as they want, we're prepared to fund the TSA. But Republicans were kept on saying Democrats shutdown, and I think that was cutting through.
Was it?
I think it was. I think it was because...
What does the polling data suggest?
I don't have it, so I'm not going to make it up.
See, yeah.
But
my theory of shutdowns, as you know, is when one side controls both houses of Congress and the White House, they tend to get blamed for shutdowns.
I know this much.
Yeah.
You may be right.
Yes.
But if you're not, you're definitely right.
Yes.
After Trump gets up and says, I'm not doing any deals with anyone unless they pass this other act, which I love.
Yes.
Even though I have it right in front of me that I can get what I want. No, I won't take it unless I get this other act with...
No men in women's sport.
That's it. Thank you. So anyway, that's what he did. But since then, Trump has apparently become a bit more willing to consider a deal, because some Republican has said, we can do everything in this bill. We can do ICE funding, and we can do the Save America Act. And we can do the $200 billion for the war.
Yeah.
We can do it all. Because we haven't talked about $200 billion for the war, but I'll probably talk about that some other time. It's not going to happen. All you need to know for now is that the Pentagon has requested $200 billion for the war, and they're not going to get it. That's all you need to know. But they said that we can combine all these things together in a reconciliation bill.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about that, Dave?
Well, I think from the Republicans' point of view, that makes a lot more sense than whatever it is that Trump is gibbering about. But once again, it doesn't have the theatrical impact. Who's going to know about this?
It's funny you mention that, because Trump definitely isn't sold. Trump said about this, we're going to take a good hard look at it. They're getting fairly close, but I think any deal they make, I'm pretty much not happy with it.
Yes.
He says. And pretty much any deal they make, I'm not happy with it.
Yeah.
He says. Here's the thing, though. This is really interesting, Dave. Here's a bit of exclusive PEP content, because most people, I think, don't really understand reconciliation enough to talk about this.
Okay, yes.
As I said, there has to be a budgetary bill for reconciliation. The Byrd Rule says if you have a bill with no budgetary effect, or whose budgetary effect is merely incidental to their policy purpose, then it's not allowed under reconciliation. Right? And then you need 60 votes, unless you get rid of the filibuster. So, funding ICE, you can do that easy. That's budgetary. Funding the war, maybe. It's not quite so easy, I think, but maybe. Save America Act, not even close. Save America Act is about databases and shit. That's not about budgets.
No men in women's sports.
Exactly. No men in women's sports.
Well, Chaz, the thing is that there's a budget for men in women's sports, and it's zero.
Yeah, that ain't going to cut it. Even Mike Lee agrees with that. He's the Save Act's most dogged proponent. Everything is for the Save Act as far as he's concerned. Even he's saying, guys, don't even try it.
There are a lot of things that can be passed through a Senate procedure known as budget reconciliation, through which we can pass things with a simple majority vote. The Save America Act isn't one of those things. It can't pass through budget reconciliation because it's a policy. It is not budgetary. And even if you attached money to it, there are things at the margins we could do to help facilitate compliance with it. But the restrictions themselves have basically zero chance of meeting the standard to pass through budget reconciliations.
Now, what they have been talking about, so when he says there are things that you could do to increase compliance with it, there is a pot of federal money that is used to fund elections. And what they have been talking about is basically denying states access to that funding unless they implement Save America measures.
Except for they cannot do that.
Well,
the Supreme Court is very clear about that.
Even if they could, do you know how much money we're talking about?
How much?
$15 million.
Okay. So not much of an incentive.
Not very much at all. So
Yeah.
I can't imagine any blue state going, oh, yeah, okay, we're definitely going to have the provisions of the Save America Act now in order to get our slice of that $15 million of funding.
I know people are cynical about the Supreme Court and go, oh, they'll just do whatever politically suits them. But honestly, you cannot get a much bigger precedent over the last 20 years with this court than the Obamacare precedent.
Yes.
That was massive. And the whole thing in the Obamacare was with the Medicaid, where they had Medicaid, they had extra funding for states that expanded the number of people who could get access to Medicaid, but only for them.
Yes.
So that's what we're talking about here, bribing to get your policies enacted. And the Supreme Court just said, you cannot do that. You have to just give them the money or not. You can't make them do something for their money. You just can't. That would just be outrageous. Like, I just don't think they would. I think it'd be too obvious, a flip-flop for them to go back on that. So that's not going to work anyway. But this means one of two things. And once again, you're not going to get this anywhere else. This is nerdy stuff. This means one of two things. Either they're preparing to lie to Trump and to the Republican base and pretend that this bill has the Save America Act in it when it doesn't. And I wouldn't put it past them. I really wouldn't put it past them. That's one thing they might be trying to do. Or two, they intend to do what they did with the Big Beautiful Bill and to deem it as passing the rules.
Right.
Because you remember, the way it works is a Senate parliamentarian rules whether the bill passes the requirements for budget reconciliation.
Yep.
And then they can vote with 50 votes to ignore the Senate parliamentarian.
Yes.
And they've done it twice in the Trump administration now. Twice.
Yes.
They did it right at the beginning of the Trump administration, and they did it with the Big Beautiful Bill as well. She ruled against a bunch of provisions, and they ignored her.
Yep.
This could be the third time that they ignore the Senate parliamentarian.
Yes.
If they do, and they pass all this shit about men and women's sports and stuff, which clearly shouldn't be in reconciliation,
yes,
over the top of the Senate parliamentarians' protest and just do it with 50 votes, I reckon the filibuster's done by that stage. At that stage, you just go, well, the Democrats are obviously going to do the same thing for their bills. And what you then have is you have a free bill every year where you can do whatever you like with 50 votes as a bare minimum.
Yes.
And they'll normalise the process, and the parliamentarian may as well not exist from then on.
Yep.
So look, I don't know which way they're going. We'll see what they do. Maybe nothing will happen at all.
Yeah.
But if they're going down this road, and I think they're going to, because John Thune really doesn't like how much shit he's copying about the Save America Act not passing, they're either conning the Republican base and Trump, and they're not going to pass the Save America Act, or they're about to destroy the filibuster without saying they're destroying the filibuster. It's one of those two options. So yeah.
Okay.
We've talked about Save America Act a few times. I want to just say a couple of quick things about this.
Yes.
Because I think there's so much misinformation out there about this bill. Obviously, it's in the interest of both sides to hype up or hype down the legislation. And I've been part of this misinformation because the media has misinformed people, and I read the media's stuff. And until recently, the legislation wasn't out there to look at.
Yeah.
But as soon as I saw the legislation, I thought, should these guys it's just not true what they're saying about this legislation. Also, I should say there's a lot of different bills out there. There's a Save Act, the Save America Act, the Mega Act. They're all similar but different. I think people are confused about what's in what's in what bill.
Yep.
Okay, so let's go through what's in the Save America Act, the one that's actually in front of the Senate that the House voted on. That's all I care about. Okay? All right.
What's in there, Chaz?
Okay, so we've heard a lot about the ID requirements, right?
Yes.
This is not just photo ID, and important for people to realise.
Yeah.
This is photo ID plus proof of citizenship.
Yes.
which is new almost everywhere.
Yes.
Okay, it's not even in Texas and Florida.
Yep.
Or Florida just passed it now.
Yes.
Where it already exists is in Kansas, although I think a court froze it in Kansas.
Yep.
And in particular in Arizona. That's where it exists. That's where it thrives, in Arizona. Okay, so we've heard these stats. 52% of registered voters do not have an unexpired passport with their current legal name. 11% of registered voters do not have access to their birth certificate.
Yep.
9% of all eligible voters do not have easy access to any documentary proof of citizenship. Those stats have been doing their rounds around the media, okay? Why don't we actually look at... Actually, before we do, let's listen to Chuck Schumer talking about this kind of stuff.
It makes it allows ICE to kick tens of billions of people off the rolls.
Tens of billions, probably a bit much. Let's assume he's talking about tens of millions rather than tens of billions. Let's look at the case studies, because there are two very contradictory case studies, Kansas and Arizona.
Yep.
I'll give you both. I'm not going to put my thumb on the scales here.
Okay.
Kansas legislated documented proof of citizenship for voter registration in 2012. The result was between January 2013 and December 2015, 31,000 applicants were denied voter registrations for document reasons. Okay, that's 12% of new voter registrations.
Yes.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's in the 9% range, right? I don't have the exact details of the Kansas legislation, though, so I'm not exactly sure how it differed, maybe, from the Save America Act. I don't know. The details really matter with this kind of stuff.
Yes.
What I do know a lot about is the Arizona legislation,
Right.
which is very similar,
Yes.
except for it's slightly harsher than the federal legislation.
Right. Yep.
Arizona legislated documented proof of citizenship in 2014. They set up a system, though, which is an interesting test, where if you didn't have a proper ID that passed muster, you could vote federally, but not in state elections. Because at that point in time, there weren't federal regulations for this kind of stuff, but there were state regulations. So you could see the number of federal-only voters. Because people, you go, people might just not vote.
Yeah.
But people do vote for the federal government rather than the state government.
Yes.
So you go, okay, so these are the people who wanted to vote, but they didn't have the right documents. How many federal-only voters do you think there were in Arizona that year when it first started out of 4.4 million registered voters?
No idea.
21. There were 21. Now, that is partly because the rules only applied to new and changed registrations, not all 4.4 million registrations.
Yes,
okay,
yes,
So that's a very important point. Over time, that impact has increased. 10 years later, in 2024, when there have been 10 years worth of new registrations, the latest comprehensive vote beat study, which looks at every single vote in Arizona, found 19,000 active voters are federal-only voters.
Right.
So that's the number we're talking about over 10 years.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay? That's 0.4% of voters.
Yep.
That's what we're talking about. And for those who are wondering about the partisan nature, I speculate they'd be mostly Republicans. They're not. 5,700 Democrats, 2,100 Republicans.
Right.
Rest independents. Okay? So that may or may not be indicative of who this affects more.
Yep.
But the numbers weren't massive. Okay. This is Senator Mark Kelly.
Everybody would have to re-register to vote. Think about that 80-year-old senior who doesn't have a passport, who can't find their birth certificate. What are they going to do?
A lot of people have said that. Not true. I've looked at the legislation. The bill only applies to new registrations or changed registrations.
Right.
It's like Arizona.
Yeah.
Same thing. So for those who say this is going to have a huge effect on the 2026 election, no, it won't. It won't. Okay, because it's only affecting new registrations and change registrations. All right. That doesn't mean it's good. I'm not defending it, but I'm saying let's know what it does.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Some more married women. We've heard a lot about this. What happens to married women who can't prove they changed their name? This is Senator Mazie Hirono.
In order to register to vote, you're going to have to show different pieces of documents. So if you're, let's say, a woman who got married, changed your last name, and if your last name doesn't match the name on your birth certificate, you're not going to be able to register to vote. That I call stealing our votes.
Let me read you the actual legislation. Requirement in cases of name discrepancies in documentation. Notwithstanding any other provision of law, a state shall accept and process an application to register to vote in an election for federal office if the applicant provides through a process established by the state additional documentation as necessary to establish that the name on the documentation is a previous name of the applicant. That's the document. Or an affidavit signed by the applicant attesting that the name on the documentation is a previous name of the applicant. You just need to sign the affidavit. That's it. That's what's in the legislation.
Right.
Anyone can sign an affidavit. Okay. I'm not saying it won't discourage married women from coming out to vote, but they're not going to be denied the vote.
Yep.
They just have to sign a document. So this whole 69 million married women have been screwed thing, not true. Scare campaign. And by the way, in Arizona, you couldn't sign an affidavit. That's how it was harder.
Yeah.
And yet still you had those low numbers. All right. Here's a huge exception to the voter ID requirement. Process for those without documentary proof. Subject to any relevant guidance adopted by the Election Assistance Commission, each state shall establish a process under which an applicant who cannot provide documentary proof of United States citizenship under paragraph 1 may, if the applicant signs an attestation under penalty of perjury that the applicant is a citizen of the United States and eligible to vote in elections for federal office, submit such other evidence to the appropriate state or local official demonstrating the applicant is a citizen of the United States, and such official shall make a determination as to whether the application has sufficiently established United States citizenship for purposes of registering to vote in elections for federal office in the state. If a state or local official makes a determination under Clause 1, the applicant has sufficiently established United States citizenship for purposes of registering to vote in elections for federal office in the state, such a determination shall be accompanied by an affidavit developed under clause. Okay, so if you have a photo ID of some kind, you can still register even without documentary proof of citizenship if you can convince the election office and sign an affidavit.
Yep.
Okay, that could be a huge loophole. Or it might make no difference whatsoever. Because right at the top, do you remember what it said about subject to any relevant guidance adopted by the Electoral Assistance Commission? They set the minimum standard.
Right.
So if the federal government wants to make it basically impossible, they can.
Yep.
But if they want to be reasonable,
Yes.
they also can.
Right.
So we don't know. There's uncertainty there about, and it can change between administrations.
Yes. Yeah.
So New Hampshire, for instance, has a law like this already, and it's considered to be quite lax because they've got quite a low standard.
Yep.
Then there's also mail voter registration. That's where the bill's actually super harsh.
Yes. Yeah.
All voter registration must now include a physical in-person component.
Yes.
With documentary proof of citizenship.
Yeah.
No affidavits allowed. So that will defeat the purpose of mail-in voting for rural voters entirely.
Yes, that was what I understood to be the most restrictive access point. Also one that could actually hurt Republicans the most.
Yes, it can.
Which is,
And one more thing, which has definitely been lied about. Oh, no, not lied. Untrue. It updates the criminal penalties provision of federal law with respect to election workers, but to be charged with any offence, you need to have committed it knowingly and willfully. Those people are saying every time you sign on someone who's not a citizen, you can go to jail. No, unless you did it fraudulently and intentionally.
Yes.
So election workers aren't under threat.
Yeah.
That's just not true. So yeah, so those are the things I just want to just correct.
Yes.
Because the media completely got it wrong, including Planet America.
Okay.
So yeah. Okay.
Look, I would say in summary that none of these changes are going to be enough to actually change the outcome of an election. And that has been true of voter suppression for a long time now. It's just, whenever voting is made more difficult, people basically out-organise it.
Yeah.
There are organisations dedicated. So if this goes through, there will be organisations dedicated to driving or flying people to places where they can register to vote. But that is not the point. The point is that you shouldn't be making voting difficult to impossible for some people, even if it's not a very big proportion of the population.
Even if one person misses out on their vote for no reason whatsoever, that's still bad.
It's your fundamental democratic right, and they shouldn't be making it harder.
Yeah, yes. I 100% agree.
Yep.
Can I ask you, Dave? I'll ask you about this, about just the politics of this. My theory on this is that Republicans are leading with photo ID because that's so popular, and they know that. Photo ID is popular. Photo ID is not the problem. It's all the other shit that's the problem, right? My theory is that Democrats should, not now, but when they're in power, they should pass a photo ID law, a real photo ID law, a photo ID law where people get free photo IDs if they require them, where the standards are incredibly low. like you accept a very wide range of photo IDs. You accept student IDs.
Cardboard cutout.
Maybe not that, but you accept a broad range of IDs, and if you don't have one of them, you can use an online service to get your photo ID. That's free. So people who are working, who have jobs and they can't go to the DMV or whatever, can still get their photo ID. If the Democrats do it right, pass a proper photo ID law that's not going to hurt anyone, that takes away the talking point for the next time the Republicans want to come up with some bullshit, because they're using the photo ID as their Trojan horse. You take that away, what are they going to argue? Oh, we really need to mess with the database, guys. Come on, let's mess with the database. Like that's not going to work.
No, I think they're always going to find a talking point. You look at what's happened with the development of Real ID in the US now. There's always going to be another higher standard of ID that people are demanding.
But will it be as popular? Because the photo IDs, the other thing is there's a democratic element to this as well. If 80% of people want something, give it to them. Just give it to them in a way that doesn't screw everyone up.
Yeah, so the whole 80% of people want something. Is want really the right term when the way that you are measuring that is through a survey where this is one of the options put to them, right? There's a difference between want and prefer.
Yeah, that's true.
What I would suggest is with the exception of some Republicans, this is not really a very high priority issue for very many Americans. This is, said with the exception of some Republicans, this is not something that people are getting really upset about. And I actually don't agree with the idea that just because 80% of people indicate something in a survey, you should give it to them, because at the moment, this is restricting the rights of people to vote if you give it to them. In Australia, we do fine without photo ID.
Yep.
We do fine without ID of any kind when it comes to voting, and this is a country where everybody has to vote. So I don't think it's necessary at all.
Fair enough. You got like 3 minutes here, Dave, before you go. You want to talk about the special election, which isn't going to take you very long. So do you just want to say what you want to say about
Yes, although
that?
I can't remember the names of the people involved.
I think I've got them here, mate. We've got this is the 87th House District.
Yep.
There was the Democrat Emily Gregory.
Emily Gregory, that's right.
She's a first-time candidate who runs a fitness business, serving pregnant and postpartum women.
Yes.
And she defeated financial planner John Maples by a 51-49 margin. Take it away.
Okay, so that 2% margin, that is a 21-point swing, because the incumbent, who has gone off to become the state comptroller of Florida, won it by 19 points last time around. Now, it's not like this has been a deep red forever district, because Florida, as we know, is traditionally the swinginest state in the union. And this one, if anything, was mildly Democratic until relatively recently. But it's been pretty red since 2012. It actually, it has been. So, and of course, the big symbolism of this is Mar-a-Lago is in this electorate.
Yes.
Now, interestingly, Emily Gregory was not directly campaigning against Trump in this. She was actually campaigning on affordability issues. This was just what she was hammering relentlessly, that life is just unaffordable for Floridians. Many of the people in her district would be, if you've ever read Barbara Ehrenreich's book Nickel and Dimed, the kind of people who work in the Florida service industry, right? So that would be that would have been something that resonated with them pretty hugely. But she wasn't running this explicitly anti-Trump campaign despite the enormous potential symbolic significance. Okay, so this was a special election. She'll have to contest the election in November again. But nonetheless, there is no optimistic way to read this result for Republicans. This is now one of 30 state results that has gone against Republicans since Trump took over. They haven't got a single one. If you remember, in Trump's first term, in the first few races, Republicans were actually winning those races. This just has not been the case this time around. Now, what this indicates is, as we know from our good friend Richard Cook, Sorry, I wasn't advertising there. This was not subliminal advertising for Coca-Cola. As we know from our good friend Richard Cook, the Florida Democratic Party is one of the most useless organizations on earth. Not just most useless political parties, useless organizations dedicated to any purpose on earth. And they have managed to engineer a special election victory in the president's own backyard. That is a very bad sign for Florida Republicans. It doesn't necessarily mean, in fact, it probably doesn't mean that they're going to lose control of the state house. But what this really indicates is they are having problems mobilizing Republicans, which could mean that Democrats could at least pick up a lot of state house seats in Florida. They could also be picking up congressional seats in Florida. This is just not a good sign for Republicans heading into the midterms. It indicates the good old enthusiasm gap.
There is a Senate seat up for grabs in Florida as well.
That's right.
Although that's a bridge too far, isn't it?
Who knows?
Who knows?
Let's see how the war goes.
Yeah.
Let's see if oil gets above $200 a barrel.
That would be quite an election if they lost in Florida. I'll tell you that.
Yep.
I just want to add one thing, not about the Florida special election, but just about these elections at the moment. Illinois just had a bunch of primaries.
Oh, yes.
Democratic primaries. And I thought it's worth noting a vision of the future there. There were 3 super PACs.
Yes.
There was AIPAC, which is the Israeli lobby. There's Fair Shake, which is the crypto lobby.
Yes.
And there's another one I don't know the name of, which is maybe doesn't even have a name, which is an AI super PAC.
Right.
As well, from Palantir.
Yeah.
All 3 spent tens of millions of dollars running ads against candidates.
Yes.
Lots of candidates.
Yes.
None of them ran ads on their actual issue.
Yes.
All of them were running ads as stalking horses, like they're talking about progressives, this, and the war, that, and just all other issues, immigration, whatever. All of them tried to take out their opponents, their ideological opponents, with negative ads about other topics.
Yes.
And those would have had no idea what special interest they were representing.
Yep.
They have names like, these super PACs have names like Elect Chicago Women.
Yes, yeah.
And Affordable Chicago Now.
Yeah.
That's what that says at the end of the ad. Affordable Chicago Now brings you this ad. This, Dave, is the future.
It is.
The next election is just going to be awash with these special interest super PACs.
Which aren't necessarily even very effective.
Not necessarily, but...
Like, AIPAC spent a lot of money attacking a Jewish candidate who has said negative things about Israel, and at the last moment had to switch their attacks onto another, like, far more pro-Palestinian candidate because they realised that what they were actually doing was potentially hobbling their own cause.
But in this case, they're all against each other.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's part of the reason they might not be effective.
Yeah.
If all 3 of them are supporting one side, and it's not going to end with these 3.
Yeah.
There's going to be other ones. If you get one side with all the special interests, that's going to be an absolute advertising avalanche that could dwarf the campaigns themselves.
Yeah. There's some nice alliteration there, Chaz.
Thank you. Yeah, I really worked on it. Anyway, I just want to flag it so I can come back to that in 6 months and go, see?
Okay. You've got to do it in that exact voice. See?
Okay, thank you very much, Dave. We're going to have a Chaz Unleashed after this. It's going to be a juicy Chaz Unleashed. We've got a bit to come. We've got some Mississippi, the Mississippi Supreme Court case. We've got a little bit of immigration, maybe a little bit more war. There's going to be a lot. So I'll see you after the white flash. But Dave, till next week.
Stay peppy.
Stay peppy. Welcome to the other side of the white flash. This is Chaz Unleashed with Lachy.
Hi again.
We've got a lot to get through, as always. First of all, just a couple of things. We are recording the day after the main PEP, but this is Friday. And I have actually done a little bit more reading since then, and I've seen a few things which I wish I had put in that ep, but that will go into the next step. But one thing I have seen, which I didn't realise when I talked about those long-range missiles fired towards Diego Garcia. Iran deny that they fired those missiles. I didn't realise Iran have actually flat out denied it. And since they're in the ocean. There's no conclusive evidence that Iran did fire them. We should just say that. Now, there are some conspiracy theorists online who are going, oh, it's a false flag from Israel trying to set up Iran. Though long-term listeners to the PEP can probably guess what my views are about those theories. But the fact is, we don't know. And yeah, this like I've said before, this war is full of people lying. So so unless you have conclusive evidence, you shouldn't just assume. At this point in time, we don't. I think it makes much more sense that those missiles were fired by Iran, but we don't know for a fact. So I just want to put that out there. Also, one thing I didn't say, I just forgot to say it when I was talking about the ICE intervention at the airports.
Yes.
I mean, I basically implied this, but let me explicitly say it. They haven't solved the problem at all.
Sure. Yeah.
Right.
I
Okay.
think that's clear.
Yeah. There's like maybe there were 2 airports, maybe 3 airports where the lines were reduced the day after when ICE turned up.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it was because of ICE or not, the lines were reduced. All the other airports are exactly the same. They still have the same problem that the TSA aren't getting paid, which means the TSA are increasingly over time not going to show up. They have an 11.5% absentee rate now. It's going to become 12. It's going to become 15. It's going to get worse. So that we just need to be very clear about this. The problem is getting worse. So the fact that they're pretending they solved the problem in one day, they won't be able to pretend that for long. So either Trump is going to have to do something drastic, and from the sounds of things overnight, he started to do more drastic things. We'll talk about that in the next show probably. Or people are starting to get really angry with him, because no one gets more angry than when you claim you solve a problem that's annoying them and then they find out it's even worse. The stakes are raising on this issue.
Okay,
is what I'm saying.
interesting.
But yeah, it's important to note it's not getting better.
130 ICE agents did not solve
That's right.
the national problem.
Exactly. All right, now let's talk about a Supreme Court case involving Mississippi. Normally with Supreme Court cases, Lachy, I like to talk to you through the law in some detail.
Extensively.
I'm not going to be doing that with this one because the Supreme Court didn't do that with this one. This is one of those cases where some of the justices forget that they're judges and they think that they're politicians. And all they talk about is policy and what they'd like to see, and whether a particular state of affairs is a good thing or a bad thing, and what if we rule against this, will that do this or will that do that? They're just talking about like they're politicians. They're not talking about the law at all. They're not talking about an interpretation of a law. They're talking about just their desires. And I hate when they do that. And this is what, not all of them, this is what a number of them have done in this case. So the case is Watson versus the RNC. It's about Mississippi's mail-in voting rules. Now, in Mississippi, if you mail a vote in the day before an election, say, and it doesn't get there on election day, which it may well not, as long as it arrives within 5 business days of the election, you're okay. If it was postmarked as being sent before or on election day.
Okay, sure.
Okay,
All right.
If it's not postmarked or it's postmarked after election day, they do not count it. So if it's postmarked as being sent before election day, then they go, well, it's not your fault. You tried to vote on the day, and the Postal Service screwed you up. So we'll count it. That's the law in Mississippi.
Sounds reasonable.
Does sound reasonable, doesn't it? There are 24 other states, actually more. It's more like 30 actually. Other states that have similar kinds of laws. They all have different days. Some is 1 day, some are 2 weeks.
Okay.
But they all have the idea of for certain periods.
1 day before or after?
After. They all have the idea that for certain periods after an election, you can have late arriving ballots as long as it's postmarked as being sent before or on election day.
Okay.
A lot of those laws arose during the COVID period when there was a huge groundswell in mail-in votes, and the Postal Service was under the pump, and they were concerned that the Postal Service wouldn't be able to cope with the pressure.
Yeah.
And so they just passed it as a law to allow that leniency for that election, and just stayed there. And people got used to it.
Sure.
They started to rely on it.
2020 election.
2020 election.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. The Republican Party was in court arguing that only ballots that arrive on or before election day should be counted.
Yep.
That's
okay.
what they're saying.
Yep.
No late ballots. Obviously, if the Supreme Court rules that way, it would disenfranchise potentially hundreds of thousands of people. Because there's literally, in 2024, hundreds of thousands of ballots arrived after the election day.
Because the election was rigged that way.
Well, that was the claim.
Which is
made
probably,
by some.
I suspect, why we're here.
I'm absolutely sure. Well, no, actually, Trump was talking about this before 2024.
Okay.
He was talking about this after 2020.
No, I was going to say
Yeah.
why this case is here.
Yes, but this case is here as much because of 2020 as anything else. But you're right.
Yeah.
This is part of the evidence. Now, to the extent that this lawsuit has any legal basis at all, this is it here. Everyone agrees that Congress can pass laws to regulate the timing of a federal election. It says that in the Constitution. In 1845, they did just that with a bunch of laws. There were several of them, and they all involved when election day was. This is one here, which says the Tuesday next after the first Monday in November in every even-numbered year is established as the day for the election. So that's just the classic second Tuesday of November is election day. Right. Now, their argument is when they use the phrase the day for the election, that should be interpreted to mean everything should happen on that day. The election means everything. It means when you vote. It means when you make a decision. It means when it's counted. It means everything. Everything happens on election day.
Does it mean when the concession and acceptance speeches are made?
I don't think they care about that as far as the law goes. I don't think anyone is legally compelling concession speeches. But if it's legally compelled, they say it should happen on election day. That second.
Is counting
November.
legally compelled?
Well, I think it is. Yes, I think you need to count who's
all of the votes.
Well, here's the thing: we're getting there. That is an excellent point to make, young Lachlan. But that's their argument. Their argument is everything should happen on that day. That's their argument. Election day can't mean you accept votes 5 days later, they say. Mm-hmm. That's their argument. By contrast, Mississippi and their allies, their argument is that an election, the day of the election, is defined by when a voter makes their choice, not when election officials receive or count the ballot. Quote, counting votes is not part of the election, they argued, knowing that vote counting has always extended beyond election day, which is the point that you're making.
And Mississippi say it has to be the day the voter makes their choice, meaning the day they write the ballot down?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's when election day is. Now, obviously, you can vote before election day, but they're saying you should never be able to
vote after.
Okay. Yeah,
okay.
That's what they're saying.
Sure.
You can receive the vote after, but you can't make your choice.
Yeah.
Make your choice after.
Okay.
All right. Now, Alito definitely has made up his mind on this question. He was very clear on that. He said, quote, we have lots of phrases that involve two words, the second of which is day. Labor Day, Memorial Day, George Washington's birthday, Independence Day, birthday, Election Day. They're all particular days. So if we start with that, if I have nothing more to look at than the phrase Election Day, I think this is the day in which everything is going to take place. Now, you've already raised the first obvious point, which is counting.
I seem to think of a few elections that took a bit longer than 1 day to count.
Yes. Well, every election takes longer than 1 day to count. But also, I would argue that it's tough to make the case that law written in 1845 was intending, because this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to interpret what the Congress intended, intending to ban late arriving mail-in votes, because mail-in voting didn't exist in 1845. And nothing like that existed. They didn't have early votes. They didn't have any of that stuff. So when they wrote that sentence, they wouldn't have been thinking about that. So I think suggesting that they were trying to rule that stuff out is just ridiculous. That clearly wasn't contemplated. I'm not saying they don't have the power to rule it out. They do. The Constitution is very clear that the federal government can make laws about the timing of an election. They have the right to rule it out, but they just didn't do it with that sentence I read out. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
That's my argument. Also, this has been around for a long time, mail-in voting. They started mail-in voting in some form in the Civil War. So that's a long tradition in which they've felt that it's completely legal. And the Supreme Court looks at that kind of stuff. So that's your first problem. You're arguing that a practice that's been around for 150 years was actually banned that entire time, but no one noticed.
Oh my goodness. Think of how many elections have been rigged.
Yeah, until Trump was a sore loser and then turned against mail-in votes. So that's the law. That's the legal aspects. What does Election Day mean?
Okay.
Everything else is just policy talk. There were lots of hypotheticals considered. Neil Gorsuch, Sam Alito in particular, they asked, what if you recorded a dated video testimonial showing you voted before Election Day? What if you did that?
As in, I filmed myself voting.
Yeah, film myself filling out a form, and then you send them the video and then the form later on.
Yeah, correct.
What if you gave your ballot to a Supreme Court justice to deliver on your behalf, saying that you made the choice? You gave it to them before Election Day, and then they turned up after Election Day.
What if I gave it to the president?
Yeah. What if?
Cool.
What if there was a sex scandal the day after the election, and you wanted to take back your vote before it arrived at the electoral office? All of these are fascinating hypotheticals.
Yeah,
Lachy.
cool. What if anything happens? What if a bomb dropped on us right now?
What if anything? What if a bomb drops on your head right now?
Exactly. What if the aliens come and take your vote? If the legislature wants to rule about any of those fascinating hypotheticals, they're welcome to. That's not a relevant question for the Supreme Court. The relevant question for the Supreme Court is, what did they actually write a law about? And it was about none of those things. Brett Kavanaugh was extremely worried about the effect this could have on people's faith in elections.
Huge.
Once again, that's not his problem.
Okay.
His problem is to interpret the law, right? Yes, you're right, Brett. If the winner of an election seems to change after late arriving ballots are counted, I'm sure the losing side they'll cry bloody murder and they'll say this is all rigged and all that. I'm sure you're right, but that's none of your business.
Yeah.
Brett, your job is to interpret the law. A lot of voter fraud concerns expressed. Oh, there was a lot of that. But once again, none of their business. But even if it was their business, Mississippi Solicitor General Scott Stewart observed that no one has been able to furnish a single case of fraud due to the delayed arrival of mail-in ballots, ever. So there is that as well. The only conservative judge who was actually thinking about the wording of the law was Justice Roberts. He was talking about the wording of the law quite a lot, and he raised an excellent concern. If everything happens on Election Day, then that would also ban states from allowing voters to cast a ballot before Election Day.
Here we go. Okay, yeah.
So that means not just no mail-in voting that comes in late,
no early voting.
No mail-in voting at all, and no early voting at all. All voting would be in person on the day and everything else would be illegal. Is that what they think that law was trying to say? That one sentence back in 1845? And also, as you say, no counting votes after midnight.
And no accepting that you've won after midnight.
This is the Gremlins election. Nothing after midnight. Or the Cinderella election if you're 400 years old. And, some states have barely started counting at midnight. Like
it doesn't all close at 6 p.m. Like in Australia, it closes later, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, but also
in some states.
It's also just how slow they are to go through the process.
Sure.
Like California takes forever. Is this too late is another question. There's something called the Purcell Principle, which says you can't mess with an election legally when it's so close to the election that it could actually affect the election outcome before it's been dealt with properly, bedded in properly. Like a day before the election, you're not supposed to change all the rules.
Sure.
Because just confuse everyone, right?
Okay.
That's the Purcell Principle. Is it too late now? Like if they change the rules for 2026.
I think that depends entirely on how poor your postal service is.
Well, that's probably part of it. Well, Brett Kavanaugh at least considered that. He asked the council against the mail-in voting if there are any issues with the states for the upcoming fall elections. And that council said, no, look, the decision, if it's made in June, they give states plenty of time.
If I mail my ballot in June and it doesn't make it until the 6th day after November 10th or whatever.
I don't think that's their point. Like their point is 4 months is enough time to make arrangements.
Yeah.
Bottom line, as far as this case goes, the Liberals have made up their mind that this is stupid. They were very obvious. They're very clear about that.
Mm-hmm.
John Roberts clearly thinks this is insane. Alito, Gorsuch, and Thomas, they might as well have been counsel presenting the case against Mississippi. Like they were not hiding their views at all. So you've clearly got 4-3 against 4-3 on the side of Mississippi and then on the side of mail-in voting, at least. Kavanaugh, he seemed to be leaning against the mail-in voting late ballots, but I wouldn't 100% guarantee that.
All right.
But for argument's sake, let's call him for all.
So what's Barrett?
That leaves Barrett. She was mysterious. I don't know where she's going on this. I'm not sure. Look, I think just because I love Barrett generally, I'm biased to hope and assume that she'll go 5-4 on the side of the mail-in ballots, which is the side I'm on. And I should say, as I'm about to tell you, policy-wise, I don't agree with the late ballots at all. I just think there's no way you can interpret that one sentence from 1845 as intending to outlaw them. If you don't like it, pass a law against it. That's what you should do. The law hasn't been passed. Pass it, in my view.
Yeah.
I think legally that's pretty clear. That's the side I'm on. I know, just for once, someone is legally in a different position to what they actually want to happen. But that is my view. I think she'll lean my way, but we'll see. We'll find out. Otherwise, I think it's going to be 5-4, one way or another. Okay, so let's talk about the policy then.
Sure.
Leaving aside the case.
Yeah.
Like I just hinted, while I think it's obvious that this law in 1845 didn't intentionally outlaw late received mail-in votes, and this case should be thrown out of court, and I think it's a disgrace it's even got to the Supreme Court, to be honest, because I think it's obvious. As a question for the Congress or state legislature to determine, which I think it should be, I'm voting to outlaw them.
Outlaw the mail-in votes that come in.
Yeah. If I'm a legislator, I'm going, no, get rid of them. Like I don't want them. I don't want them. And now when you hear that, you might go, well, hang on, what about disenfranchising the poor mail-in voters who are trying to send in ballots?
Yeah, I mean, what if I choose the day before and then I've got a crap mail service?
That's an excellent question. That's no fault of yours that you were.
Yeah.
That your ballot didn't get in time. How do you even know if your ballot gets in time? Like, let's say you mailed it.
Yeah, true.
Let's say you mailed it 3 days early, and you just have really crap postal service, and you don't even know if it got there or not.
We allow, I think it's something like 2 weeks in Australia.
There you go.
Shows our faith in Ozpost.
Okay, let me tell you my logic. I've got 3 reasons for this. None of them involve voter fraud, by the way, or fears of voter fraud.
Yeah.
1, I don't think this actually disenfranchises anyone if it's implemented properly. What I mean by that is not done at the last second. A lot of these laws are very recent. Like I said, after COVID. Mail-in voting was around for a long time before then, and it wasn't a problem. No one was going, everyone's been disenfranchised. They weren't. Why? Because people were trained to send their mail-in votes early. Like you just said, in Australia, they say try and send them within 2 weeks.
No, sorry.
So after more than 2 weeks.
They'll receive them. If they receive it 2 weeks after.
I see.
They'll still count it.
It's 2 weeks. Okay, got you. Okay. But my point is, if you tell people,
do it early. Then.
Do it early. Do it with a week to go.
Yeah.
Do it. Send your vote with a week to go. Like they should have a campaign, a promotion campaign saying, mail-in voters, send your votes by this date.
If you want your gifts arriving before Christmas.
Yeah, totally.
That is what I was supposed to do. Sorry for saying bad things about you earlier.
And then people will do that. The campaigns will do that. If the campaigns know that they are trying to get people's votes counted, they will tell people, if you're doing a mail-in vote, send it early. And that's good. Like, just do it. That's what they used to do. They can do it again. So I don't think anyone needs to be disenfranchised. That's the first thing. In fact, Nevada, they rejected more ballots for being late in 2024 after they put in the 4-day grace period than they rejected in 2016 when they had no grace period. Because in 2020, people got used to sending stuff in really kind of late. And so they got laxer and then stuff for the ballots were later again. Ohio moved from a 10-day period to a 4-day period, but they promoted it. and then they had fewer late ballot rejections when they moved from a 10-day period to a 4-day period. Iowa, same thing. They had a smaller period, and they had fewer late ballot rejections because they promoted it. So having no grace period doesn't mean lots of late ballot rejections necessarily, as long as you promote it and inform people and they know what they're doing. So that's the first thing. They might go, well, that's fine, but why would you change the system if you don't need to? Okay. The reason why states have these laws is because everyone finds the postal service quite unreliable, right? It's exactly those same guys that you're relying on to get postmarking right. Remember this, they only count it if it's postmarked correctly.
Of course.
Do you know how many ballots aren't postmarked at all? And how many ballots are postmarked with smudges and in illegible ways? Those votes are being discounted, right? Right now, under the current system with a grace period, there are votes being robbed from people. They're being disenfranchised.
Because the
postal service screws up the postmarks.
Whoa.
If you don't have any ballots arriving late, the postmark is irrelevant.
When is Trump going to launch his next war on the postmarking? The Democrats control the postmarking, they've been smudging all my votes.
I've learnt not to predict what Trump's next war will be about. Who knows? But my point is, in actual fact, I think the way to minimize wasted votes is actually to get rid of the grace period and get people to send their votes earlier. Because this current system, heaps of votes get thrown away because they're not postmarked correctly.
Sure.
So actually I argue the opposite. I argue if you're worried about wasted votes, my way's better. But also, number 3, I don't actually care if a ballot comes in a day late or 2 days late. I don't give a stuff. I don't care about the voter fraud thing. That's a complete... That's a furphy, right?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I do care about, though, and I want to stop this badly. California. I hate California's elections. The way they conduct elections is just a travesty. Pretty much every single election, it takes 2 weeks, 3 weeks before you get a final result in California. Every single election. As a person whose job it is to report to you guys what's happening in elections, I can tell you I have to spend 2.5 weeks looking at bloody California to see the last 3 or 4 seats, the closest 3 or 4 seats. Every single election. Every time. With how close the House is, there's every chance we won't know who is holding the House for a month after the election because of bloody California. And part of the reason why California takes so long is because they have this extraordinary grace period with their mail-in ballots, and they all do mail-in ballots in California. So I think it's 2 weeks there. It just takes forever for all the votes to come in, and it just holds up everyone. I think it's unreasonable. It's just ridiculous you have to wait a month for the result of the election.
That does sound very Australian.
So I don't think it's good enough. I think that the way you stop this, and I really want to stop it, is number 1, you change the culture of voting so all votes are received by election day, which is what I've already talked about. Number 2, you pass a federal law that forces, yes, I know, libertarian, talking about forces every state to pre-process mail-in ballots before election day. Because the mail-in ballots have to be processed first to make sure that they're legal ballots.
Yes.
And then they count them.
Yeah.
Okay? That's what Florida does. It pre-processes all the mail-in ballots, all the early voting before election day, which is why Florida has the results in like 2 hours. Every election night, Florida, which is very close to the biggest state in America. It's like 3rd biggest state. It's a big state. And it's pretty much the first state to put out its results because they pre-process everything. And then they just go bang, 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 bang. The counting is really fast, and then you have your result. If the whole of America worked like Florida did, you would have not just a result on election night, but early on election night. And obviously West Coast, it's going to take take an extra 3 hours because of time differences. But you definitely would be waiting 3 weeks or 2 weeks to find out who holds the House. It'd be a day maximum. So that's what I think they should do. And if they did that, I think elections would be much, much better. I think it'd be a game changer personally. So that's what I'd like to see, and that's why I would get rid of that rule from a policy point of view. But this Supreme Court case is bullshit. Do you have any thoughts? Have I convinced you, by the way, about the mail-in voting? I don't mind if you disagree with me. Obviously.
I am trying not to view this as a politician who would go, well, the entire reason this case is being brought up is because at the end of the day, it's just going to undermine people's faith in voting, in mail-in voting in the elections. So I'm just instantly really, really suspicious of anything that is trying to go, oh, let's change it because it was rigged. Like, it just feels to me too much like Trump's complaints about the 2020 election.
Yeah.
That we're still talking about today.
The motivation behind it is obviously bullshit.
I find it very difficult to separate that perspective with your what does the law say. And I don't think 5 days is too much of a problem for votes that aren't fraudulent and aren't changing the end result of who wins.
There is a middle ground. You could say, Chaz, why don't you just do everything you just said, but still accept votes after election day?
Yeah, sure.
You can still have your promotional campaign. You can still.
You just don't want to wait.
Yeah. You can still tell everyone who sends mail-in votes to send it a week early just to be sure. And I can and still have a 3-day or a 4-day grace period. You don't have to have a 2-week grace period. You can have a 3 or 4 day grace period just to clean up a couple of straggling ballots just in case. But I don't like that because of what I said about the postmarks. I don't think the postmarks should be what determines whether a vote is accepted or not, because the postmarks are extremely unreliable. But anyway, you can disagree. Sounds like you disagree, and that's cool.
I think I do disagree.
Good. That's all good. Okay, I'm not going to bite your head off, man. It's all good. Just wait till the camera's off. Anyway, we've got probably about 10 minutes left. Let's do a little bit of immigration. There's heaps more where this came from, but I'll just start it. First of all, interesting stat. Oh yeah, why don't we call this stat nugget? Yeah, why don't we? Do you remember the motivation for Minnesota originally was about welfare fraud?
Somalian welfare.
Yeah, Somalian welfare. Back in December when this first started, it was all these Somalis, they're so corrupt, so full of welfare fraud.
You sent me some 50-minute YouTube video.
Yeah. We need to move in, and Nick Shelley, we need to move in, and we need to clean up all the American citizens who came from Somalia and they're illegal immigrants and their welfare.
But there was a leaning centre.
There was not learning centre, a leaning centre. That's right. Yeah, that's how it started. Let me tell you how it finished.
With 2 dead people?
Yeah, well, that pretty much was the finish. As it turned out, ICE agents arrested about 3,000 people during the operation in the end. 23 of them were Somali, and none were connected to the fraud allegations.
Yeah, wow.
Zero. You
know what? That is statistically unlikely, I guess. If you got 3,000 people and no one's got...
Yeah, so given that this is all about welfare fraud, supposedly, zero arrests connected to welfare fraud or any kind of fraud. And as I said, 23 out of 3,000 were Somali.
Wow.
I'm not surprised by that, because, like I said, the overwhelming number of Somalis in Minnesota are citizens. They're not illegal immigrants at all, and the welfare fraud has nothing. And you don't catch welfare fraud by arresting people in the street for looking like they might be an illegal immigrant. So none of that's surprising, but they're the numbers. All right. Now, you might not have noticed this. It's a bit under the radar. It's becoming more above the radar as time goes on. But since the shootings in Minnesota, Trump has been changing his tone a bit on immigration. He's been gradually workshopping it. He can read a poll, and he knows it's not popular.
No way.
Yeah, and he's kind of developing a whole new message. It's almost cuddly. Have a look at this.
Gotta lighten up on this. We have a lot of heart for people. They came in illegally, but they're good people, and they're working now on farms, and they're working in luncheonettes and hotels and all. And we're looking to get the criminals out right now, the criminals.
So Trump's telling us we need to lighten up on illegal immigrants. That's what he's telling us. We're the problem here. We need to lighten up and just let the workers work, you know? Sure. The Wall Street Journal.
Stark.
It is. It's quite a difference. It's quite a difference from the murderers and rapists and
the worst of the worst.
And the people from the asylum, the people released from asylums. The Wall Street Journal says it's not an accident, Lachy. I'm going to quote the article for you. President Trump is seeking to lower the profile of his mass deportation effort and has directed his top advisors to adopt a new approach on one of his central campaign promises, according to people familiar with the matter in conversations with top advisors and his wife, Melania. Trump has become convinced that some of his administration's deportation policies have gone too far, and voters don't like the term mass deportation. The president has told them he wants to see more attention on arresting bad guys and less chaos in American cities, according to people familiar with the matter. The desire for an immigration reset is being driven in part by Trump's White House Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles, who believes the president's immigration team has turned one of his marquee issues into more of a challenging issue ahead of the midterms, the people said. As a result, the administration is attempting to change not only how it talks about the issue, but also what actual enforcement looks like on the ground. Now, we need to put a disclaimer in here. This could all be spin. This could all be them trying to verbal the Wall Street Journal to get the message out, to help their PR.
But babe, I've changed.
Yeah, exactly. That's wonderful. Exactly. This could be that. But the fact that they recognize that the majority of Americans don't like what they were doing is progress. Because last year they thought everyone was on their side. You could tell they really thought they were going to win elections by being hard asses.
Yes.
Now they know they're going to lose elections. And just that knowledge, even if they're not going to follow up on it, is progress as far as I'm concerned. That's the first thing.
Awareness.
Awareness is
self-reflection.
It's the first step.
Is progress.
Yeah, it's the first step.
Sheriff Lobar.
He's back. The Sheriff Lobar's back. Look, I'm not saying this is time for celebrations. I'm just saying let's recognize what is happening.
Yeah, sure. Cool.
The Stephen Miller School of Immigration Enforcement is a little bit on the nose at the moment, which is a good thing. And look, it's always been an uncomfortable fit for Republicans. Like these Republicans until a year ago, they were extremely comfortable exploiting illegal immigrants as cheap labor.
Yeah.
That has always been their position. Their position was, let's politicize illegal immigration. Let's hold up this murderer and that rapist and go, we've got to do something about this. We've got to build a wall. But let's get as many migrants as we can on the cheap to pick apples and all the rest of it. Yeah, exactly. And then be a nanny. Yeah, so this is new, the Stephen Miller School, where it's like, no, we mean it. Everyone out. Everyone gone. That's new, and it's not natural for Republicans to necessarily support that. But until now, they were too scared to say anything about what was going on because, they had to fall in line with Trump. Well, now Trump's numbers are low enough, they're complaining. So, for instance, in Florida, very red state at the moment. The sheriffs on the State Immigration Enforcement Board. These guys are hardcore immigration enforcement guys. They were having a big whinge about Trump's immigration policies to CBS News a couple of days ago. Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd, what a name that is, Grady Judd, said he'd heard from conservative Republicans who are active politically and active economically politically, who are concerned about some immigrants that now, under this particular set of circumstances, are being swept up and taken out of the country. There are those here that are working hard. They have kids in college, are in school, they go to church on Sunday, they're not violating the law, and they're living the American dream. He said he spoke with a federal cabinet member who spoke to President Donald Trump about this kind of immigrant, and the president was not anti that conversation. This is what we've been saying all along. Most of these migrants are just normal people who are trying to make money for their families and all the rest. They're not rapists and insane asylum people and murderers. It's just that stereotype is bullshit. I think from memory, 14% of those arrested in 2025 by ICE have violent criminal records. 86% don't. They're the facts.
Yeah.
And these guys are starting to push back. And it sounds like Trump is listening, at least as far as spin goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, the timing worked out well for this, with Tom Homan taking over from Greg Bovino as being the tip of the spear, because Tom Homan's been about this attitude the whole time. He's always been about, we want to arrest as many criminals as we possibly can first. We want to do whatever is the least resistance. Now, Tom Homan is very happy to send the apple pickers home as well, but he doesn't want to target them. He wants to target the people who are toxic to society first, and then eventually get to the apple pickers. That's the Tom Homan school. So I don't want to make him out like some angel, but just he's different to what the Greg Bovino school is, which is to go around marching around in military gear, acting like some kind of paramilitary force, and just arrest as many people as you possibly can as quickly as you can. That's not the Tom Homan school. So the fact he took over at this moment is fortuitous. And by the way, by doing what he did of targeting just the criminals, arrest numbers only dropped from 1,500 a day under Bovino in Minnesota to 1,200 a day under Tom Homan. So it's actually not that much of a difference, given that there's so much less resistance under the Tom Homan policy than the Greg Bovino policy. So much less antagonistic. In fact, Trump has gone all the way back to old school republicanism now, and he's openly exploiting immigrant workers again. According to the New York Times, the administration has just lowered hourly rates for workers on H-2A visas, they're the unskilled immigrant labourers, from $1 an hour to $7 an hour less than they were, depending on what state they're in. So that's how he's solving the farm worker shortage, because there's a farm worker shortage at the moment because all the illegal immigrants aren't farm workers anymore. He's solving the farm worker shortage by letting them hire migrant workers on the cheap, which is exactly the argument J.D. Vance was saying they shouldn't do. He was saying they need to get rid of all the migrant workers because they're being exploited. They're reducing wages across the board.
Yes.
And when
I remember that.
Yeah, and if we get rid of them, then we'll lift everyone's wage, because the farmers will have to pay more for an American worker, won't they?
Because every American out there wants to do these jobs.
Exactly. They desperately want these jobs, but these jobs are being stolen by the illegal immigrants who are being paid almost paying next to nothing, being paid pennies on the dollar, and as soon as you get rid of them, then the farmers will be forced to pay a decent living wage to good old-fashioned Americans. Well, Trump's saying, no, screw you, we're just going to get in more migrants and we're going to pay them even less. He's basically George W. Bush. He's invaded a Middle East country and now he's all about exploiting the immigrant workers. So there you go. It's a whole new regime. But there are two problems. Number one, he's still Trump, and that means he's got some fairly interesting views to say about migrants personally, like this.
A lot of them were let in here. They shouldn't have been let in. Others are just bad. They go bad. Something wrong. There's something wrong there. So the genetics are not exactly, they're not exactly your genetic. It's one of those problems, Brian. It's a terrible thing, and it happens.
Okay, so the migrants aren't genetically superior like Brian Kilmeade is, apparently.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, it is. And number two, the second problem, his base has been G'd up about the insane asylum escaping, murdering, raping migrants for years.
Worst of the worst.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, the Republican politicians might have been uncomfortable with that. But the Republican base, they were very comfortable with that. Like they've gotten used to this now. You can't just call off the dogs. Like once you've made them thirsty for blood, you don't go, okay, boys, it's time for pal. No. No, they want blood. And according to Politico, some of Trump's biggest supporters are furious about this new direction. Because even though you didn't know about it, and I bet you Peppers didn't know about it, because it's not getting a lot of attention because the press don't like to report on Trump sounding reasonable. They like to report on Trump sounding like a nutcase. So it's not getting much attention at the moment. I'll tell you who has noticed it is his base. They've really noticed it, and they don't like it at all. A bunch of them have formed a group called the Mass Deportation Coalition, and they are lobbying Trump hard to focus on deporting all eligible migrants. They're commissioning polls. They're actively campaigning, especially in red states, to promote zero tolerance immigration policies. So they're going to try and wear Trump down. It'll be interesting to see what happens because he tends to respond to his base. So this might be a very short run change in tone when it comes to immigration. We'll see. I don't know. Right now, the Steve Miller school is on the outs. The other thing is Steve Miller is still around. So Steve Miller's still around, lobbying from the inside. Mm-hmm. His base is lobbying from the outside. We'll see what happens. Okay, all right. Set a time. Well, we'll cut short. There's always more to talk about. I'll have more immigration at another time. There'll be a catch up to do there. Lachy, before we go, can you share what you told me about Tom Homan before?
Oh, I should share that.
Yeah.
I do have a fact that Chaz likes very much, which is Chaz always, you joke often about how Tom Homan's voice is so unrecognizable.
He has cotton balls in his mouth.
And I always hear that joke and I go, oh, okay, yep, you know what? Whatever, we'll keep, I won't cut that one out. And then as I was editing the podcast today, the software that I use has automatic sound wave detection and it can label if a sound file is someone speaking or if it's music or if it's a sound effect. I put the Tom Homan file into my edit and it consistently was unable to identify what type of sound Tom Homan was making.
It was entirely unidentifiable as a recognizable sound, the voice of Tom Homan.
So the technology is with you, Chaz.
I have a very intimate knowledge of what the robots feel and think. Lachy. That's my home ground right there. Thank you very much for that tale and for everything, Lachy. I'll see you guys I'll see you for the PEP 252 Correspondence Extra sometime during the week next week, and then next Friday for another PEP with Dr. Dave. Till then, stay peppy.